Welcome, everybody, to We Geek Podcast. Today is December 16th, episode 180. My name is Adam, and I'm joined by my good friend Logan.
Hello.
What up, man? And how you been, dude? How's your week been?
I'm hanging in there.
Hanging in there?
It's
Oh,
been
yeah, we
alright.
are on the cusp of
Yes.
craziness.
Yeah, that's one way to describe
Yeah.
it, sure.
Oh, yeah. No, I imagine it's very different for you and me this week, I guess. Like, you're getting ready for just the craziness at work.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready for the excitement for Star Wars, I guess. I can't imagine, like, it has to be Madhouse there, or getting prepared for it.
It's, you stock up and you batten down the hatches and you pray. That's basically it. It's gonna be something.
Yeah. Now, when do you plan on seeing it? Do they possibly do a showing for you guys?
That's all up to Disney. That's
okay.
Things like that are at their discretion. Anytime there is any sort of advanced anything, that's up to the distributor.
Gotcha. So let's say they don't give it to you guys early. Do you have a plan on when you're going to see it?
That's going to depend on when I work.
Gotcha.
And that's, I'm angling for maybe Sunday morning.
Gotcha.
It's going to be the least packed time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. Because I go into work Thursday, and then I don't know when I leave,
Yeah.
It's like with Endgame. It was the same thing. I went in on Thursday to close and was there like half the day on Friday. So it's insane. It's a madhouse. It is.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'm going with a friend of the show, our buddy Raphael. He got tickets through the local Cloak and Blaster is doing a showing where they basically sold, I think the tickets are like $20 and you get entrance into the movie, and I think you even get like a popcorn and drink. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we've got one that did that. We've got some business bought out an auditorium and like stuff for a popcorn and drink. So yeah, that's a neat way to do things.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That was the easiest way to do it.
Yep.
Because he reached out. He was like, "Hey, I got a ticket." And I was like, "Hey, I'm down." That way, I'm not. Because the other way was going to be me going alone to like AMC, and I would much rather enjoy that with company of friends and stuff, and especially that group of people with the Cloak and Blaster. They're all a bunch of nerds.
Oh yeah, oh hell yeah! That would be my choice in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm excited. I think I saw the last two with him as well, with my brothers and some friends and stuff. So it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool to close out the saga. And I'm curious what's gonna happen next. I know Disney actually. I read a really good article. I think it was the New York Times. I'll look it up during the show. But Kathleen Kennedy was interviewed about what the future of Star Wars is, and she made it very clear. She went to Bob Iger, I guess, and was like, "Hey, we need to pump the brakes with this. At least during the prequels, George was given at least 3 years between movies. We need to take a second to breathe a little bit to figure out what's next. And I think that's the best decision. And I think we're getting a movie in like 2 years anyway. Like, I think the next planned movie is supposed to come out 2022.
Yeah. Well, but that I think was also back when Benioff and Weiss were doing a trilogy.
Well, no, I don't know. I think the article is like very recent. Like they just interviewed her, and she discussed like the next movie is just a couple years out.
Yeah.
But it gave them a couple years to do everything. But yeah, I got to pull up the article once we're into it. But it was just everything she was saying made total sense, and they're very aware of the reputation of what's happened around Star Wars with the directors and creative, and they want to make sure moving forward they make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. These things you can't you as much as I would love a new Star Wars every year, they need to take a little bit of a break, make it a little bit more like a time between, because just the time between I know there was some, Solo came right after It seemed like it came right after The Last Jedi, and there's been a little bit of gap between that and now, right?
Yeah, Solo was 6 months after Last Jedi.
Right, and it
Something like
just
that.
wasn't long enough.
No, it wasn't. And it was also in the middle of everything else, and it was like it was either right before or right after Deadpool 2, and it was just this,
And she didn't throw Bob Iger under the bus or anything, but she was fighting for that to be Christmas as well.
Yeah.
And they thought, and Bob Iger has admitted to, it was a bad call on his part to put it out on that date, because he thought that date would have been special, being that's when Star Wars, all the other Star Wars movies came out. But it's clear that should have been, I think if that would have been handed just a little bit of time between The Last Jedi, I think more people would have saw it if it would have been put out in Christmas time. Because it's kind of anonymous with Christmas now. I was even watching The Mandalorian, and the intro, when they show all the colors, just even at the end of it when it shows the Star Wars and all the different colors, it reminded me of like a Christmas tree, if that makes sense. And I know that's not their point, but maybe it's just my head and it's subliminal, but that's what I associate it with this time of year, the holiday season, if that makes sense.
It's gotten to that point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's to me, I love it this time of year because there are a lot of less things coming out. Everyone's getting excited for this time of year. I know I see a lot more of my family this time of year, and my family, we talk about Star Wars and all that other stuff, so it's fun. And I like that. I hope moving forward they continue to put it, and I think they are. They announce the dates for this and Avatar, and it was going to like rotate every year.
Yeah, it was basically
December.
Yeah, it was like every Christmas was either Avatar or Star Wars.
And that's smart. I mean, granted, Avatar, I don't know.
Given that it's a Disney thing, I think had it just been back when it was Fox, I don't know if it would have popped. I genuinely think that having Disney attached to it gives it something.
It definitely does. I'm curious moving forward because what kids are going to think of it, because I don't even know if kids know Avatar nowadays. I think they just think of, that movie with the blue people.
Well, it's on Disney Plus, so they can go watch it.
That's true. That's very true. But I guess we'll see moving forward when we get a whole bunch of them. But anyway, I'm excited for this week. We not only get that, I think, today's Monday, we're recording. Wednesday we'll have The Mandalorian, or tomorrow night if you stay up really late and are crazy, which I think I did once, and I was like, no, the next day I was like, I can't do that again. So I usually just wake up early now the day before. So yeah, on Wednesday morning I'm going to wake up and watch that. And yeah, I mean, well, I guess we'll talk about The Mandalorian at the end of the episode, so we can jump into spoilers. But yeah, I'm excited. This week's just going to be just chock full of Star Wars.
Yeah.
We got The Mandalorian, we got the movie, we got some comics coming out. And be warned, I think the critics are seeing it tonight. Like, tonight is their big showing.
Well, it's the premiere. Like, the world premiere is held in LA tonight. So yeah, I'm gonna be one of those where, like, I am snoozing everything. Like, if it's a news page I follow, I'm just like, nope. I've gone through, like, IGN, Nerdist, I think even, like, Deadline. I've gone through, just been like, nope, I'm good. I'll wait. Like, you guys can just chill for a while.
Yes, I am completely staying off Twitter, because that's usually
no, Twitter and Reddit, like, are just, are death right now for, like, because it'll be the first thing you see. You'll go on a completely unrelated subreddit, and it'll be the first thing you see.
Right. Is there a way to turn off all comments on YouTube?
I don't know. I just not go on YouTube.
I see, that's the problem, is I love YouTube. And I love YouTube because I'll watch everything under the sun revolving movies or sometimes games or whatever. So, like, I love the deep dives into TV shows and movies and behind the scenes stuff. So I wish there was how to disable all comments on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure there is. I'll look into that later, because if there's not, there totally should be. Like, hey, how do I just disable all comments? Because I never go into them. It's just a disaster. It's like Reddit or whatever, or the bad side of Twitter. But yeah, exactly. I'm saying I don't even go on Reddit anymore unless someone sends me a link. And Twitter. I like Twitter, but that also can be just a disaster. So yeah, I'm gonna be staying off that this week.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna be surprised. In that article, Kathleen Kennedy actually talked about like why they decided to throw some of these things in the trailers to show us ahead of time. And I think her thing was like, this is the last one. Like we're not doing what we did before, where we're trying to like gotcha. It's like, no, we're showing you some things that you're gonna see in this movie. And it's the last one of the kind, so that's how we're addressing it now. And I thought that was pretty cool because they've shown some like pretty crazy things in the teaser trailers, which I don't even know if I want to talk about, even though it's in the advertising. They're big spoilers.
Yeah, I've done my best to stay away from, like, I saw the last, not the like most recent trailer they did, but the Monday Night Football one, I guess, which was like the last like big trailer, and I'm like, I'm good. It's it. I saw the TV spot also a little ways back that had like the little bit of Duel of the Fates in it.
And okay, like, so you didn't see the clips?
No, I've intentionally stayed away from that stuff. Like, okay, I've seen enough.
We'll stay far away from that. The clips are the biggest spoilers. I definitely don't watch that.
I am sure they are. I've seen, and there is an internet rumor I've seen going around about like what little cameo might be in it, and if that's a thing, I hate that might have been spoiled for me. But aside from that, like, I've seen absolutely nothing, and I am trying.
Was it from an interview?
I don't remember where it was, but it was in the headline. Where it was,
yeah. Okay. I think I saw the same thing. There was an interview with J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, and there was something about like this character, and I was just like, damn it. So that was when I went on my spree of just like snooze you and unfollow you and mute you. Like,
right. Well, I think the fair thing to do going into this is if this is truly the end of the Skywalker saga, I would hope that there is some cameos from all different versions of Star Wars comics, the animation, the games. I'm looking to be surprised, if that makes sense.
No, that's fair.
Prequels, everything. I'm a mark for it all, so in anything like that, I'm excited for. So, yeah, it was the Los Angeles Times she did an interview for. So I highly recommend go seek that out. It's a very, very good interview, very good article. And it explains a lot of like what their idea is. And the whole time I was reading, I was like, this makes sense. Like, this is, she's not where she's at for no reason. You know what I mean? Like, Kathleen Kennedy, all the things that she's did in her career, it's very smart moves.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, say what you want about a few of the episodes, I think the new movies have gone over 5 billion at this point. So she did her job. But yeah. So anyway, I'm excited about that. What else? There was something else. I'm sure I'll think of it. There was also something else Star Wars related this week. Oh, the Fortnite.
Yeah, that it's like, okay, I looked
into that.
Sure, that was a thing.
Dude, as much as Fortnite gets shit, and it's full of kids, and it's not really my thing anymore. We've talked. I loved the battle. What was it? The PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds type game, right?
Yeah.
Still play Battlegrounds every once in a while with some buddies. Fortnite was cool at first, but it got ran over with kids, which it's okay. That's awesome. They have their game. But once it started doing that, it wasn't really for me, right?
Yeah.
When I heard the news that J.J. Abrams was going to appear in it and premiere a clip, I was like, all right, I gotta log in. So I re-downloaded the game, logged in, and then everything went off because it said I got like a bunch of stuff. Jumped in. Apparently, it was super hard to get in. If you didn't get in within, I don't know, I forgot what time it was. I think it was like at 2:30 they opened the doors, and at 3 o'clock J.J. Abrams was going to talk. If you didn't get in around that 2:30 time, and it was kind of a weird thing, like you had to wait till 2:30, or I'm sorry, I keep saying 2:30, till 1:30 Eastern. If you didn't log in right at 1 or before 1:30, if you logged in before 1:30, you were like in a Fortnite game. At 1:30 they shut that off, and it was like, hey, you log in, you're going to this the risky reels or whatever. But if you didn't log in within the first few minutes, you didn't get it. Apparently, it was like that packed.
Huh.
So you jump in and everyone goes to risky reels or whatever. I guess it's like a movie theater place. And you can shoot each other for like 30 minutes or whatever, and you keep dying and keep popping back into that same area. And the map gets smaller and smaller as 30 minutes go by, and then it forces you everyone that's in your little server to go onto this platform. And there might have been like 10 or 20 of us. And then kind of like all hell breaks loose. It actually looked really cool after that. And all of a sudden, randomly, you would hear Jeff Keighley through the game speakers, as if it was like God talking. And he's like, "Mic check, 1, 2, 3." We're like, "What?" and he's like, "Yep, well, J.J. Abrams is going to be appearing in 20 minutes, so everybody get ready." So anyway, the time comes, and he says, "We're going to give it about 10 more minutes because people are still trying to come in." And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. The platform raises, and you're all kind of stuck on it. And then, like, all of a sudden, all of the Star Destroyers just warp into, like, the sky above you.
Nice.
And the Millennium Falcon comes, and TIE fighters are shooting at it, and you kind of lock your camera on because it tells you, like, hold down the right mouse to lock onto what's going on in the sky. And like, and then you watching the Millennium Falcons diving above, it's destroying all the Fortnite stuff that everyone built around the area, which was crazy. And the TIE fighters are shooting when the Falcon's going around, and then it lands, and then Jeff Keighley comes out. He talks for a little bit, and then he introduces J.J. Abrams, and it's literally a skin of J.J. Abrams. Like, they did a whole character model for J.J. Abrams, which that would be hilarious if they sold it in the game.
Like, yeah.
Because they have like all the Star Wars skins.
Yeah.
But yeah, JJ comes out, and then they had 4 panels there, like circle panels, where they did like quizzes, and they were like, "What kind of clip do you think we're going to show?" One of them was like Darth Jar Jar, and then there was a few other ones. And I won't say the other ones because if you didn't see the clip, I don't want to spoil it, because it's a pretty neat thing that they showed. I thought they were going to show a clip from about a week ago, but it was a brand new clip, and people guessed it right, I guess, and like above it said the thing. And then we saw the clip, and it was like on a big outdoor screen in the game, and they showed the clip. It was pretty neat. J.J. Abrams and Jeff Keighley go back and forth for like another 5 minutes, and then he gets back into the Millennium Falcon and takes off. And during this they ask you what's your favorite lightsaber color. So of course I stood on green. It had like green, blue, purple, red. And then once it was all over with, a big treasure chest drops out of the sky. You open up the treasure chest, and it's lightsabers.
Nice. Oh, that's pretty cool.
And it was one of the best feeling lightsabers in a game that I've ever felt. Like, it reminded me of the Jedi Knight series, where like you're jumping around, you're slashing, you can go fast, you can double jump with it, and the look and the feel, I was like, it wasn't like the last game that just came out, Fallen Order, where Fallen Order feels more clunky. It feels like heavy.
Yeah.
Where this one was like you feel way more like a fast Jedi. And then you got to kill each other for like 10 minutes until it was over with, and then I guess they're now in the game. So if you log into Fortnite, there's like different areas where TIE fighters have crashed, and there's treasure chests around it, and you can pick up blasters or lightsabers.
Nice, that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, so like they've totally tied in, just like what they did with the Avengers with Thanos and all of that stuff. Like, they're totally doing Star Wars, and that's smart. That's how you get the kids in. Because that's all kids talk about nowadays. I imagine Star Wars to them, it's like that's something their grandfather watched, you know. But yeah, that's how you get all the kids excited. And man, it was fun. It totally blew me away what they were doing, and that was just such a bizarre experience to be like, oh yeah, I logged into Fortnite where J.J. Abrams was on a stage in front of me, talking through his skin. It's just so weird.
That's fair.
Yeah, but that was fun. And then yeah, they showed a clip. So, and if you want to know what it is, it's totally on YouTube. You can go check it out.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I'll check that out. Like once I've seen the movie, I'll check that out just to see how weird that probably looked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was definitely an experience, and I could totally see them doing this again with a bunch of other movies moving forward. You know what? I'm surprised there's not a Fortnite animated TV show or movie out there.
Yeah.
Like that just to me makes sense.
Yeah, well, you could say the same thing about Overwatch or World of Warcraft or, fill in anything here, basically.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's shocking to me. But everything's going after like book series now, which I'm totally down for. I'm totally about it. But I'm surprised that there's not, there's like 100 Sonic cartoons, but why didn't they touch Fortnite? It's just weird. But yeah. Anyway, all right. So, let's start off. What was the box office like?
Box office this week was basically just Jumanji, which was to be expected. Frozen's been out a few weeks now. The fervor's kind of died down. A lot of that crowd went to Jumanji because it was like, hey, this is a kids movie for slightly older kids ish, basically. Which that's fine. Jumanji was good. I got a chance to see it, and it was really enjoyable. It's genuinely just the first one, but turned up a little. So if you like the first one, you'll like the second one.
Okay.
Jack Black gets to play a handful of characters, and it's really funny.
Oh, that's good.
It's tremendous, and it's just I'm glad to see Jack Black just having fun with things.
Yeah.
But
that's cool.
It brought in a little over 60 million. Frozen dropped to about 19 and change. Knives Out still going fairly strong at a little over 9. Richard Jewell was one of the other premieres this week. It made 5 million. And Black Christmas was the third premiere this week, made not quite 4.5.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Man, every time I see the Richard Jewell commercial, I'm like, Clint Eastwood really wants us to not trust the media.
Or the government.
Or the government, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just...
Clint caught old white guy syndrome.
Yeah.
He really did.
You ready to fight back? Like, come on, guy. Yeah. But, yeah, I want to see all these movies. Jumanji, Knives Out I want to see the most.
Knives Out's really good.
Yeah.
If for nothing else than to hear Daniel Craig's accent, because it's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically just an exaggerated Foghorn Leghorn impression. But it fits. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
It shouldn't work. I really feel like if anybody else had tried to do that, you'd look at him and just go, what are you doing?
Right.
But it works, because he'll stand there, and you try really hard not to picture him in, like, the white suit and barrel-chested with his hands on his lapels, thumbs sticking up, like an old-time... It's almost like an old, like, plantation owner kind of accent.
Right.
It's just that long and drawn out, and the key for everybody is just he talks about what happens the night of the party.
Yeah.
And it's then when you hear that, you're just like, oh my god, did he number his feathers for just such an occasion? It's intense, but it's really good. It's a really, really fun movie, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Cool.
Like I said, Jumanji is a good plus if you're, if you enjoyed the first one, you'll dig the second one. 'Cause it's
awesome.
It's very much just, it's that but turned up, which is fine by me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to see it. I definitely want to see it. Cool. What do we do? We got Star Wars coming out. What other movies we got coming out?
At some point either this week or next, because I can't actually. There's been a little bit of release date shifting with some stuff at the end of the year, like 1917 and Bombshell. Like stuff is kind of jumbled around a little, especially in regards to limited release versus wide release.
Yeah.
What I believe comes out within the next week, like from now until Christmas, is Bombshell, Star Wars, and Cats.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure it's all three of them this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
it may be Bombshell and Star Wars this weekend and Cats on Christmas. But I think it's all of them this weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm not exactly sure.
Why would they put those out? Well, I don't know why someone put Cats out during the same time as Star Wars.
Because for families at Christmas. Not every family at Christmas is going to go to Star Wars. It's the same thing 2 years ago. The release slate was Jumanji, Star Wars, and The Greatest Showman, a musical.
Yeah.
All three of them made bank. This year, the slate is Jumanji, Star Wars, and Cats, a musical.
Who's Cats for, though?
Theater people. Trust me, this is going to make money. I guarantee you it's going to make money.
Yeah, I don't know. I see it and it just looks terrible.
There's nobody that's meh on this that I've talked to. It's either this looks fantastic and I want to see it, or this looks horrifying and the stuff of nightmares, get it away from me.
Yeah, I want to talk to people who think it's fantastic, because I'm just...
I've talked to a couple, and I'm just like, but what about the design? And they're like, I think it looks neat. Like, okay, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
But trust me, it'll make bank. It's gonna make good money. Spies in Disguise also comes out during Christmas. It will not make bank, because nobody's really gonna go see that, which is unfortunate, because, you get the Genie and Spider-Man in a movie. Like, I wish it came out at a different time.
Yeah, every time I see a trailer or like an image of it, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that movie.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen on Christmas.
Yeah, no.
Which is, like I said, it's unfortunate. If they had just bumped it, a couple weeks,
Yeah, any of these coming out in January or February makes more sense to me.
Yeah. But
you gotta have something out. It can't just be Star Wars.
Yeah, and I get why, because it's families are together, kids are out of school, so let's put the kids movie out now. I get it, and all in all, it probably will do better over Christmas than it would have if they'd done it after everybody went back to school. Yeah. But I go back to Ferdinand, which was the other movie a couple of years ago.
Oh I forgot about that.
Yeah, by the same studio. It was also by Blue Sky, and it came out alongside Jumanji and Star Wars and The Greatest Showman. It was also a Christmas time movie, and it was a John Cena vehicle, and John Cena's big with kids, and nobody really went and saw Ferdinand. So I feel like Spies in Disguise, it is so just weird to me when I look at the slate for this year, and I'm like, I see the parallels, like, it's such a weird parallel between the last time we had a Star Wars movie, just across the board. It's like, this is weird.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got another Jumanji, we've got another musical, we've got another Blue Sky Studios animated movie. Like, it's weird. It's so weird.
That's weird. Yeah, no, man, I think probably the thing I'm going to watch the most, obviously, is Star Wars, but I think the other thing I'm really excited for this time of year is The Witcher.
Yeah, when's the premiere for that again?
I believe it's the 20th.
Okay.
Yeah, so should be next. This week, Friday.
Oh yeah, Friday. Netflix stuff is always on Fridays. I forgot.
Yeah. Yep. So, gonna check out. So my week is Mandalorian,
Star Wars,
by Skywalker. Yep.
And then Witcher. And it'll be. I'm curious to see if they decide to do one episode of the whole series.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Yeah, it says first episode date is December 20th. I wonder what that means.
Yeah, they may be going weekly. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
That would be smart. I think. I don't know. We'll see. We will see.
That indeed we shall.
Yep. Cool. I didn't see these trailers. Tell me about these trailers.
Just the only one that I saw this week was the new Top Gun trailer.
Okay.
Which it was like, hey, this is, Tom Cruise flying fighter jets.
Okay.
Awesome. That's, that's what I'm here for. So I'm sold. I didn't need anything else.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I saw the first trailer and I thought it looked okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a little more of like, oh, he's called back to teach.
Okay.
Basically.
That makes sense.
He's the new instructor, and it's basically, here are the kids, and oh yeah, this guy's old, blah blah blah, he's out of touch, and he, in the span of like 10 seconds in the trailer, they're all just like, oh, oops.
Let me ask you, does anyone in the trailer say, "Who are you"?
No.
No, not in this one.
No.
It's not all like all the other ones where.
No, they're very well aware of who he is.
No, not him. I meant like another character. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I couldn't find if they're all dropping it once or not.
Yeah.
I guess just, all they know is the first episode at least is dropping that day.
We'll find out, I guess.
We will find out, that's for sure. All right, cool. So what other some movie news we got?
They're rebooting Power Rangers again.
Cool.
It's coming from Paramount. I think not cool. I like the last one. They could have done a sequel on that. It's only been 2 years.
The last one was great, and a lot of the people that came from it are now big stars.
Yeah, I mean, look at was it Naomi Scott, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's huge money, Charlie's Angels aside.
I mean, it's Awkwafina is up for an award this year, right?
It's nuts.
Yeah.
And she's in the new Jumanji, and she's just
cool.
Fabulous. She really is.
Yeah.
Because she gets to play one of the characters, she gets to play 2 of them at different points. I won't tell you who or how because that's a little spoilery. But
cool.
Oh my god, it's fantastic! It's so good.
Yeah. Awesome.
But no, I'm bummed that they're not continuing on from that one because I liked that one a lot.
Yeah.
But they're gonna do what they do.
Yeah.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Where was Awkwafina in?
I'm sorry, she had an album called Yellow Ranger.
Oh, okay.
I was looking up information about her. I thought, never mind.
No,
she wasn't in the movie.
It took me a minute because I was like, she wasn't in that one. I don't.
Yeah, no, it popped up on my news thing, and I was just reading it. I was gonna say it as soon as you were done talking. I was like, oh wait, she wasn't in it.
Yeah.
But I guess it was one of her albums.
Yeah. But I mean,
you're going, man, because I googled the Power Rangers. I was like, man, that whole cast was stacked last movie. But yeah.
But I mean, Ludi Lin is gonna play Liu Kang in the Mortal Kombat reboot.
Right.
I hear this Bill Hader guy has done some stuff.
Yeah.
Like I guess he's kind of funny or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, hell, what was it? Darcy Montgomery was in that. The guy who was on Stranger Things. He was Billy. Yep. Like, I mean, you really look at that cast, and it's nothing to sneeze at.
So, is this going to be a movie or a TV show?
It is a movie. It's coming from Paramount, from Jonathan Entwistle, who did The End of the Effing World on Netflix.
I don't get why they don't do a television show instead.
Because they already have a television show.
Yeah, but do we still have a television show?
Yes, it's still on. It's a different.
Oh.
It's basically an anthology series anymore. Every season is its own thing. But gotcha. Yes, the series there is still a TV series as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
But he's an odd choice because they talked about how they wanted like the script that Patrick Burley is working on. He did the script for Peter Rabbit 2 and a handful of other things that it's a very different tone than the Netflix show. And it's supposed to be set present day, and then they wind up somehow time traveling back to the 90s and have to get back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want that or not.
So it's going to be set in the 90s.
It's going to be set mostly in the 90s. It's basically just going to be like Back to the Future.
That's cool. I think that sounds cool.
And here's the thing that I have to remember. It's not made for me. It's made for people a third my age. So
the thing is that, well, then you get into you're right, because then it's who is this for if they're going back to the 90s.
Yeah. But
because are you trying to get the our age, because that would be the 90s crowd.
Well, but think about Back to the Future, though. Back to the Future was not made for people who grew up in the 50s.
That's true, I guess.
I think they can do it, and I think they can do it decent, you know?
Yeah. Oh, man, we're so old.
Yeah, I know,
yeah,
right?
But I guess that's the way you get both crowds. But yeah. Yeah. Man, oh man. Okay.
We'll get, I don't know, I'm curious to see, because it does seem like they're going for a more lighthearted kind of tone, more in line with the old series, instead of, because the last movie they did was kind of heady.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
One of them had their mom was sick. One of them, I'm pretty sure, was either a runaway or homeless.
Yeah.
One was slightly on the spectrum, which I thought, these are fantastically deep and complex characters, and that was part of why I loved it. But I get why it didn't appeal to 6-year-olds.
Right.
And that's the target market for that. So they'll do what they're gonna do, and I'm curious to see where they go. But
right.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Cool. Cool.
On the other end of that spectrum,
yep.
And speaking of Benioff and Weiss, they are adapting the graphic novel Lovecraft, which, if memory serves, was really about, it was a fictitious biography. If I remember right, it was what if he wasn't making this stuff up?
Okay.
Kind of thing. I can't. Oh man, I've seen bits and pieces of it. I've never actually read it, but it's set in the 20s in that universe.
So the graphic novel was called Lovecraft?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it.
I don't have the author down here.
When I looked it up, the Lovecraft graphic novel was basically 4 classic horror stories, so it's his stories in graphic novel form.
I'm not sure if that was it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like.
Unless I completely misread what I was reading, which is always a possibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have.
Lovecraft by, was it Hans Radanoff?
That sounds right.
Yeah, the Necromechicon or whatever, Cthulhu, the Unnameable, the Cursed of Town, came, these icons of horror sprang from the imagination of horror. But consider this: what if the imaginary terrors of Lovecraft wrote were not imaginary at all? So that sounds like exactly what you're talking about. It was from Vertigo. Okay, there we go.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, so look, if you're listening, look up Lovecraft by Vertigo. That's the comic, the graphic novel that they're basing this off of. So that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's on Goodreads. A lot of people seem to like it.
But
that's cool.
That's an interesting way to come at it. Instead of trying to adapt the story, why not come at it from this? It's because it is a different kind of angle.
Right. Yeah, it's hey, these things he's writing about, what if they existed? Speaking of that, have you watched any of his Dark Materials?
No, I haven't.
Which is kind of, I guess, in the fantasy spectrum.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's good. I like it. We were watching it the other night or the other day. We didn't really have much to do. I was like, hey, let's check this out. And I was hooked. I gotta say, I think a new episode came out last night. I gotta watch, but it was way better than the movie.
Well, yeah, the Golden Compass was not a great movie by any stretch.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this had way more time to... Because I'm like, I know there was a polar bear, and then that comes into play. And it's like I don't know, I felt like I was drunk watching the movie because I only remember, bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Like I remember there's a bear. I remember a story about kids. And, yeah, and it fleshes it way more out in the show. But I've been enjoying it. So I'll probably talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know when that's done, but...
I'm not sure, because it's got to be, 8-9 episodes now? Because it's run about as long as Watchmen did.
It has, yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I can look it up while we talk, but yeah.
Yeah.
But been enjoying it. It's been pretty good.
That's good. I'm always down for more good stuff, but you know.
Oh yeah. Oh, looks like there's gonna be 7 episodes. So I mean, it might have been the season finale or 8. I'm sorry, there's gonna be 8.
Okay.
So December 15th is the 7th, and December 22nd is the final episode.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so check it out if you want a little bit of fantasy. It's good. It's really good. They do a good job explaining the world in the first episode of why they have their demons, which are really just these animal things that run around with them, and it's like their soul or whatever. But anyway, you'll see. Check it out. It's good.
Very
good
cool.
stuff.
Very cool. Yeah. Warner Brothers has announced a couple release dates for some upcoming films. They've unlisted Akira because they had the Waititi signed on to handle that, but he's a little busy over with the House of Mouse and some of their stuff.
Yeah.
So
they pretty much are like holding on to him now.
Yeah. So they took that off the schedule. They added the Flash movie is going to be July 1st, 2022.
Cool.
And they've decided that 2021 needs to be the real year of Keanu.
Yeah.
Because The Matrix 4 is going to come out May 21st, 2021. And that date set off a lot of alarm bells with people who said, hey, John Wick Chapter 4 comes out the exact same day.
Which is odd.
Yeah. It's like, what is WB thinking and why? Like, they're just going to split their audience. They're going to hurt themselves doing that.
That makes no sense.
No, the exact same audience is going to want to go see both movies, and they're just going to pick one.
Right.
One weekend. And I'm sorry, it's not going to be The Matrix 4.
Yeah, maybe this is their, like, just dumb idea of, hey, let's test the waters to see which franchise we move forward with, which is crazy, because I still think people will go see The Matrix. It's been a while since the last one.
Yeah.
Even though the last two might have soured a little bit of people, but I think it's been long enough where it's like, I'm interested. You think at the beginning of the Matrix movie, someone's going to go, who are you? You know, I guarantee that's gonna happen. But no, yeah, that's fucking insane. That same day, like, who thought of who? I want to be in the boardroom where someone was like, let's do it the same day as our other movie with Keanu. Why not? Fuck it.
I just, you know, I don't understand because I don't know. It's because it's distributed by Summit Entertainment, which is Lionsgate.
Right.
So I mean, does Warner Brothers have a beef with Lionsgate? I don't understand. You know, I don't get it.
Put one out during the Christmas time.
Or you know, do it a month down the road, man. You're not gonna lose anything doing it in June. Give it 3 weeks. Let John Wick have 3 weeks and then do something else. I don't know what the rest of the 2021 scene looks like yet, but I have a feeling that if they decided to put it out, what's that going to be, June 12th, 13th, whatever?
You could put John Wick out during March and it would still sell.
Well, I mean, you know, do that with the Matrix.
February.
Or
Matrix. Any one of those. People will go see it. Why do people think that people just don't go outside in those months? I don't understand.
Because they look at the box office and people don't.
They don't?
No.
No one went and saw Deadpool.
Okay, yeah, sure, they went and saw Deadpool. Can you name any other movie besides the 50 Shades movies that have come out in... If it was not a giant name movie. Now, I grant you, something like John Wick...
giant names.
The Matrix, not so much. John Wick, if you dropped it in February, yes, would pull. No question. But
I think both would.
I don't think The Matrix so much. Not anymore.
I think, but The Matrix, it's obviously, it just hasn't been around.
Yeah, I think if you did this a decade ago, literally a decade ago, it might have been able to pull. And I guess now they're capitalizing on the fact that Keanu is a giant thing once again.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect time to do it. Yeah. But I agree with you that, yeah, it hasn't been a thing for a long time, but I think that's kind of cool. It's like it doesn't have the same kind of fan base as, let's say, Harry Potter, because Harry Potter hasn't had a new. Well, I guess they had the never mind. That's not a good example because they had the spin-off movies. I'm just trying to think of another example, like Ghostbusters. I don't know. It hasn't been a minute, and it makes me more interested in it, if that makes any sense. I think if they did a Matrix 4 a couple years after the third one, I would have completely lost interest.
I'm okay with them. Like, let them move it to March.
Yeah.
There's nothing so far coming out. You can't have February because Marvel has February with Shang-Chi.
I think it makes sense to like January, February, I guess, for weather. A lot of people probably snowed in and stuff like that. And the weather, you don't want to go outside because it's freezing. I kind of forget where I live, where compared to other places.
Yeah, but people still go see things in February. I mean, Black Panther was a runaway box office juggernaut, and it came out in February.
Exactly.
Deadpool came out in February. I mean, all the 50 Shades movies had their varying degrees of success because they came out in February, because people don't understand what romance is. But there's, if you find the right movie in the right market, but that's my thing of just, it's got to be a giant thing. I think if you moved one of them to February to do better, John Wick would do better than The Matrix would.
Yeah.
For sure. But I think John Wick stays where it is, and Warner Brothers is going to blink.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, I think John Wick will be done in time. I don't think The Matrix will. I don't think The Matrix.
I don't think so either.
I think that release date gets bumped 5 months. I'll call it now. I think The Matrix comes out in October of that year.
Okay.
I think it's going to be October, early November.
Now, who besides John Wick was in Matrix 4?
Lawrence Fishburne.
Okay. So the original cast.
I don't know.
I keep thinking there was a new person that was announced for it.
For The Matrix? Yes. Probably. I don't even know if Fishburne's coming back, really. I know that, oh, nuts. I can't remember her name, and I am a terrible person. It was, who was it that played Trinity? Help me out here. Carrie-Anne Moss. I know she said she's coming back.
Okay.
But
so like the big three from them.
I guess I'm not entirely sure about Fishburne because I haven't kept up with what's happening. Untitled. Let me see. Did we have anybody that's signed on? So the cast so far as it looks.
Why did I think Michael B. Jordan was attached to it at some point?
I don't know.
He's been attached to like everything though.
Development of the fourth film. Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss reprising the roles. October. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II is in the cast.
Okay.
Jessica Henwick and Neil Patrick Harris have also been cast. Jada Pinkett Smith will be returning. Jonathan Groff and Toby Onwumere are also cast.
Okay.
I do not know who Toby is. What was he in? Oh, he was in Sense8. Okay, I'm recognizing him now.
Yeah.
Jessica Henwick is a name that sounds vaguely familiar. Oh, she was one of the Sand Sisters in Game of Thrones.
Did you know the guy that Obi-Wan Kenobi offered him a death stick was in The Matrix?
Really?
Yeah, he played Mouse.
Ah, okay.
Sorry, random Star Wars fact.
That's fair, but that's alright.
Yeah. I think a few other people are too, but that was right around the time where wasn't The Matrix still big then? Like, what was it, 2004? No, it was 2002.
Yeah, so it would have been right before Reloaded. What drives me crazy is Reloaded and Revolutions came out 6 months apart. Yep.
Yep, they shot both at the same time, I think.
Yeah, and then they were like, we're going to do these two the same year, and that didn't really work out so well.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
money-wise, I think it did. I think Revolutions made bank, but...
Yeah, well, people were like, hey, more Matrix, and they got there, and they're like, oh, no.
Yeah, this Matrix.
The shine is off now.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things, like, I don't know how 4 is going to do. I don't know. They have to do something different. And I think that's what made the first one so special, because it was doing something so different.
Right, so but how do you re-revolutionize a genre that you revolutionized?
Right.
Yeah, Scream tried that with Scream 4. That did not work out very well for them.
Yeah.
Like, it was fun. I enjoyed it, but it was not... It was almost it almost became what it was trying not to be.
Right.
But...
It's kind of like, I mean, I hate keep bringing everything back to Star Wars, but it's kind of the same way thing. Like, how do you capture that magic?
Yeah.
Those original movies, especially the FX. I was looking at, who are those guys that do the FX on YouTube? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Corridor Crew.
Yes, they did a special on Star Wars FX, and it's they're young guys, maybe probably our age or a little bit younger, I guess.
Yeah.
And they are like, hey, this is how they did this back then, and how they did it still is like magic to current FX people because it's all practical.
Oh yeah.
There's no computer, or the computer was wire work. That was the best they could do back then. And you see the wire work in the movie when they show the Death Star planes and stuff. But how just everything was put together, like one scene had like 82 different things involved practical wise, like how many shots they had to take of the thing. It's a fascinating watch. It's so awesome to see how the sausage is made with that.
Yeah.
And it makes me especially appreciate J.J. Abrams' approach a little bit more, where he's like, if we could do practical, we do practical.
Yeah. And I mean, ask basically any filmmaker, they'll tell you the same thing. They would rather have practical visual effects. And actors are the same way, because you would rather be acting to something.
Right. And even in The Mandalorian, when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh wow, like that's the actual ship. That's a model of the ship.
Yeah.
And it's mind blowing, because I guess for the last 10 years our minds have been just tricked to believe, well, that's just CGI, that's just computer, that's just computer, that's just computer. But now it's like, now they're starting to go back a little bit, and I couldn't appreciate it more. I love it. I love that stuff.
Well, and the thing is, like, why use VFX just for the sake of having... Why use CGI just to have CGI? Like, if you can do something practically, why not do it practically?
Right.
It's gotta be cheaper, arguably.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. And it's one of the that's where I think George Lucas was trying, in his head he was thinking he was doing the right thing by going, hey, the prequels, I can do these and I can push technology further, which he did.
Yeah.
I think it stands out a little bit more now. There's some scenes that still hold up, like the pod racing scene, I think still holds up.
It does. I went back. I've almost finished my rewatch.
Let's talk about that. How's that going?
Because I still want to go back through. I still want to go back through The Last Jedi one more time. But I just like going back and watching the prequels again. And I gotta be honest, I think that now, and I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's an age thing or what it is, but they're not as bad as I remember. And I almost kind of want to just tell people to chill out about it, because they're not. And I was like that before, where I was saying, oh, well, they're not really that bad. And I believed that. I really did. Mm-hmm. But going back and seeing them again, and having not seen them for a couple years, and really just kind of getting lost in it again, I thought, you know what? Yeah. For the things about this that are genuinely bad, there's, especially in episode 1, there's just so much badassness. I think I appreciated Qui-Gon more now than I did before.
It's easy to be cynical about those movies, and I think for so long a lot of people capitalize on that. Hell, look at Red Letter Media. They built their entire company on the reviews of the prequels.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see exactly what you're saying. A lot of people, I think, have changed their mind. Especially, like, I look at the Collider people. I look at a lot of those reviewers, and they're the exact same mindset of you. Especially because now they have kids, and they watch it with their kids, and they're like, their kids just go nuts over Jar Jar and the pod racing and stuff like that. And when he's in the ship and he's blowing up the base stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah. And
and I think people lose that magic in their eyes when you get a little bit older, and you become way more cynical, and everything, you become way more technical. You know too much about it, to enjoy it, I guess.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I'm right there with you. I think I've seen episode 1 the most out of all of the prequels, and I still like it. I still get so much joy out of it, especially because of the music.
Yeah. I still don't like episode 2.
Episode 2 I've seen the least, but there's still parts of that I absolutely enjoy. Again, the music in that is phenomenal.
Yeah, there are moments. I think 2 is the weakest out of the prequel trilogy, but I enjoyed and going back, I liked episode 3. It's arguably the strongest, and I'm never going to be a Hayden Christensen fan. That's never going to change. But it's just not. I don't know if maybe I was just able to push it aside or whatever, but they're not that bad.
Yeah. Well, the thing is I think the biggest criticism, especially the second, is the chemistry, the love story, Hayden Christensen, all of that. But if you look, there are things to enjoy about it. Like, I like the Jango Fett tie-in stuff. I like the stuff with Obi-Wan Kenobi trying to play detective, and there's a lot of lore stuff in there that they definitely tackle in the Clone Wars animated, which I think flushes it out way more.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that episode was crunched. They spent too much time on the wrong things, I think.
Agreed.
But it was like hey, we have to do this because it's necessary. Because that's how we set up the war, that's how we set up these stormtroopers, that's how we set up the clones, that's how we set all this stuff up, and his eventual fall to the dark side, putting them together, the Emperor, doing that. I don't know. Well, yeah, it's I don't know. I've been watching this YouTube series, The New Rock Stars, where they dive into all the prequels. One thing that I thought was crazy that I never realized before, the end of episode 1 where the music is?
Yeah.
Apparently it's like the reverse, or it's like it's the same song as the Emperor Palpatine song, but instead of done with men, it's done with children as like a happy song instead of the ooh as it was with Palpatine. And I never caught that.
That
John Williams.
Oh, that is some creepy North Korea style shit right there.
Yes. It was like, this is.
I don't like that.
This is the Easter egg, the little nugget, that it turns, and then I think at the very end of that song, if you watch the credits, it goes into the Imperial March. But yeah, so there's little nuggets to like, and I think we watched them at a good age too. We weren't crazy cynical into our 20s or something like that when we saw it. We were in our teenage years, and I imagine kids who saw it, they're like, "What are people talking about?" That it was their childhood movie, and no one will tell me the Ewok Adventures are bad because I saw them as a kid.
Yeah.
My kid vision of them were like, those are fun. We watched them all the time. But I imagine if I watched it now, it's bad. It's terrible. But that's just how it is. And I think we were kind of lucky enough to watch that where we weren't super cynical. We knew they were bad movies, but I don't know. I remember that time going to Taco Bell like a little fat kid, get it as much as possible to get the little pogs to collect them because I thought I was going to win, which is a total scam.
Yeah.
I remember getting the pizzas. I remember getting the Pepsi cans.
Oh god, the Pepsi cans. There were 12 billion of those Pepsi cans.
Oh yeah, and when episode 1 came out too, they had all the Pizza Hut boxes, and I remember I wanted all of them like a little monster. But man, it's just, that time was so much fun, and I imagine there's kids nowadays right now that it's sad that now the advertising is in Porsche, airplanes. I guess Fortnite is great for kids.
Yeah, but I
miss it when it was more like something obtainable.
Yeah.
I think, and I saw an article where like Bob Iger was like, for the last movie, we're putting our advertising in the big products. And I'm like, fuck that. Like, I get it. You want to put it on a Boeing jet and you want people who buy Porsche interested in it, I guess, because you think it's that bougie of a thing, but fuck that. Put it on a pizza box. Put it on a Pepsi can. Like, that's what I liked. Where a kid could literally get a hold of it, you know?
Right. I mean, put it on kids' stuff.
Yes, exactly. Not a Porsche. No one cares that you made a fictional car that looks like a Porsche and a Millennium Falcon or whatever that commercial was trying to do. I don't know.
It's like, hey, that's neat, but like that makes a better Hot Wheels car. Do that instead.
Right. Who are you advertising to? God, that's going to be like on a magazine in a plane or something, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think I saw McDonald's toys. They have some McDonald's toys, but man, I missed that deal that they had with like Taco Bell and Pepsi and all that, which I guess is the same company now that I think about it.
No, it used to be, but not anymore.
Oh, they used to be. Gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yum Brands, which owns Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and KFC, used to be a PepsiCo subsidiary, but they spun off years ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, the weird shit I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but that was fun though, man. I don't know. Sorry, it's Star Wars week, so I'm unfortunately.
Oh, it's all Star Wars. It's gonna be Star Wars for a month yet. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm back in that mode. I can't wait to get the art of when it comes out a week or so after the movie. Can't wait to dive into that. All the concept art, it's my favorite.
That's gonna be wild.
Yeah. And also, just so I can get off the subject of Star Wars, there's a bunch of free Battlefront 2 DLC this week. That is, I think one of the planets that they show in the trailer, that Jungle Planet. I don't think they've officially named it or released what it is. The one that looks like Endor, which I'm not sure is Endor, but you know what I mean. It's the Jungle Planet showing in it.
Yeah, the one that like is at the very beginning of the trailer, basically.
Yes. Yeah. And it's got a whole bunch of skins from the movie. So if you have Battlefront 2, it's free. Go boot it up. Anyway, sorry. Let's get back to what we were talking about.
Well, we got to Amazon's Lord of the Rings series lost their lead.
Okay.
Yeah, Will was it Poulter? Yeah, Will Poulter.
Yeah, I guess it was a scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that. Guys got to work. So.
That's crazy.
So I guess Amazon called me. Like, I've got kind of a pointy face. I've got a halfway decent beard. Like, I mean, come on, look at this hair. Like, you can find something for me. Be great.
Oh yeah.
But
that's crazy, man. That kid's in everything.
Yeah.
And this TV show would have been fucking huge. I mean, they've spent what, $1 billion on it already?
Something like that. It's nuts.
Imagine spending $1 billion on a franchise, and you're like, I'm too busy, sorry, but I guess a contract's a contract. You can't really get out of it.
No, you gotta do what you gotta do. So I mean, I respect that. That's how the work goes.
Yep. Hey, better busy than not. So
yeah, especially, and that's the thing. Like when you're an actor, like if you get a chance at a job, you take it because you don't know when they're gonna come around again. So
it's only a few that got lucky enough to turn some things down.
Yeah.
The way they did. Speaking of Star Wars, that they wanted Leo for Hayden Christensen role. Did you know that? I'm sure you did.
I did know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is crazy to think about.
That would have been odd.
It would have been odd with the dialogue.
Yeah.
I think he would have been a good choice. He's a better actor, obviously, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was what they were saying.
That's true. And
the sand is coarse.
It's rough.
Is really.
It gets everywhere.
Is this turning you on? So bad. I hate it. Oh, there was one. Oh, sorry, I gotta gush about this for a second. There was one scene that they cut out of Attack of the Clones, which I thought would have been important to do. Was it was Count Dooku who paid off the Tusken Raiders to capture his mother.
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise it's just a random thing.
Yes, so they set them up to look like savages or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is sad. But yeah, it's a cool little nugget that they shouldn't have cut out. It makes sense. But yeah, now it just looks like they're just like, what they were trying to make them portrayed as.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was cool.
No.
Sorry to get off track here. Back to Lord of the Rings. Man, Amazon's making moves. I can't wait for that. I'm more excited about the Wheel of Time, which I gushed about last week. And I actually, once we talking about it, I read like 4 or 5 more chapters.
Nice.
An audiobook too. It's weird to say. I have that problem where like I listened to an audiobook, but I said I read it because that sounds better than saying, "Oh yeah, did you listen to that book?" Because it just sounds stupid.
That's fair. I mean, audiobooks are books too. But...
Right. I ingested it.
That's fair. I get that.
Yeah. But it's just easier, especially traveling and driving here, driving there. It's like, oh, I got a 30-minute drive. I can put this on. I got an hour drive. I can put this on, knock out a chapter. Or a couple chapters for that one.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, just going all over the place here. His Dark Materials. Oh, what's his name is in it? Lin Miranda. What's his name?
Lin-Manuel
He
Miranda,
sings.
yeah.
Yes, he's in it. I had no idea.
Yeah. I had seen that at some point that he was involved.
Yeah, we've probably talked about it. It's just we ingest so much stuff, it goes in and out.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah. And it opens his first scene in it, he's singing something. I'm like, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. But he's probably one of my favorite in it too. His character just stands out. But it got me wondering. Like, I'm curious about the Name of the Wind and the King Killer Chronicles.
Yeah,
what's going on with that?
Because Showtime passed, so it's just kind of the ball's in whoever's court.
Yeah.
If you want it, it's there. But I just wonder how burnout maybe Pat is with dealing with all that. Because I know there was everything around it, like the bidding war and everything that was around it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I like that, and he's talked about before, like it was a process getting to some place where he felt like, okay, this is the right move. This is the right company. Like, he took a lot of care in that. Right. And then to see it kind of fall apart, I wonder if he's just kind of looking at that and going, well, then the hell with it. Which, I wouldn't hate. I really wouldn't. But
do you think it has anything to do with the final book in that series?
I don't think so. The 3? I doubt it, because they're, at least not in those terms, because the show is a prequel.
Right.
So I don't know. Like, I doubt it had. I don't think that the idea that third book hasn't come out yet is not a deal. I mean, look at HBO. HBO's not waiting for. Didn't wait for not even the last book of Game of Thrones to come out.
That's true. Well, here's the thing. Showtime's next big thing is Halo, right? So I'm seeing here that it all fell apart because of the merging again with Viacom. With CBS.
Fair enough. Yeah, when they came back together.
Yes, giving it access to all Viacom's IP, which to potentially adapt. Lionsgate TV, meanwhile, fresh off its mill. Yeah, so it looks like once that happened, Showtime, that's where it fell apart. So I don't know if they still have the rights to it, or if they can still shop that around.
They've started shopping it around. I know that for a fact. Yeah.
I hope Amazon, HBO, or Disney. I would even take Disney. I think Disney could do that.
Disney would be all right. I think that this one is ripe for Apple.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
This is their big, because Disney is probably not. Well, we'll talk about Disney here in a second and how they're going to be getting into this. Well, I'll just go to lead into it. Disney is working on a Willow TV series.
Right, and I never saw Willow.
It was a decent little movie. It was very Lord of the Rings-esque, but it was good.
Right.
And, it starred Wicket. How bad could it be?
Right. I remember it had Warwick Davis in it.
Yeah. It was a good little movie. Go back and check it out. I don't know where it's available. I don't know if it's available on Disney Plus or not, but it's definitely, because it was a Lucas property. So if it's not on there, I don't know where it would be. But they're
but I don't think Luke, who distributed it though. That's probably where it would land for streaming, right?
Probably, yeah. Or you can just go watch it on Disney Plus right now.
Oh, it's on Disney Plus?
It's on Disney Plus, yeah.
Perfect.
It's 87, and I remember, it is a very, 80s fantasy movie. But it was good. God, I haven't seen this. That's what I'm going to do after this, because I haven't watched that in years.
Yeah.
But it's a good movie, and it developed a fairly sturdy fan base.
Yeah.
It was kind of a proto-Firefly in that respect.
Okay.
But, Disney, that's going to be Disney's drop into this, and they're getting Jonathan Kasdan to do it. He's working on the pilot for it. So, Disney has their fantasy series they're going with. I know Apple's going big on things like C, but I really think, if they wanted to go big on this, that would be their get. You know, with Amazon doing 2, they're doing Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time. Netflix has The Witcher. I mean, this is one they should really pick up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think this should be, man, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Right, because I mean, everybody else already has their stake, unless Disney wanted to do this to put on Hulu.
Yeah.
This could be their slightly more mature show.
Uh-huh.
Because Willow is definitely going to be a more, I mean, especially if it's going to be on Disney Plus, it's arguably going to be it's going to be aimed towards a younger audience. It'll be a young adult and below audience, no question.
Yeah.
I think the Name of the Wind would be like young adult and up. It would be aimed that way, I think. So like that's one they could do on Hulu. Like I'm just saying. And I mean, come on, Lin-Manuel Miranda, he's worked with him on Moana. Like there is a working relationship there. I would love to see one of my favorite Tumblr posts from years ago was an idea about a Disney movie where the girl can't sing, but like a third of the way through, holy crap, she's got bars.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I saw that post again a while back, and I was like, hey, there's a ready-made Lin-Manuel Miranda Disney movie.
Right. Exactly.
But I just, there's a relationship there from Moana, so I mean, let's do it. Come on, somebody get on this. Like there is no downside here. It's a fantastic property. It's a beloved property. And I get it. That comes with fans who are never going to be happy about anything. But if there is any company on the planet by now that is used to just putting out great products and dealing with, absorbing, deflecting, and just brushing off the fact that some fans are not going to be happy with whatever they put out, it's Disney.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, somebody's got to pick this up.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the reason that nobody has is just Pat not really wanting to spend the energy on it, which I get. He's live streaming this like for most of the rest of the month, I think, for his charity and doing, he like live blogged on Twitch and everything. So he's not busy.
Right.
So I get it. If he just, it's his creation, it's his series. If he wants to say, you know what, we're not going to do this now, that's totally his call. He doesn't have to. So, more power to him.
Yeah.
But, and this is just rampant speculation. So I obviously have no clue why, but that if I had to guess, that would be my guess of just, I just think it's not something he wants to pursue right now.
Yeah.
But, and like I said, I get it. Do your thing, man.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Totally makes sense. Yeah, I like Disney. I also like the Apple.
I just feel like those are the two, because everybody else has one.
Yeah.
And I think those are the one of the two should go for it. And I haven't checked out any of the Apple TV Plus stuff. I haven't watched any of it at all. I really just don't have that much interest in it. But if you want to draw people in, here you go.
Oh yeah.
I think this is one that'll get, and especially, this is a nerd fantasy show.
Right.
This is that, most fantasy shows start that way. Game of Thrones was too. And then it blew up huge.
Yep.
But it's, I feel like of the two, of anybody that could afford to do it, both from a content space point, a time point, and a budget point, I think it's either Disney or Apple.
Right. I agree. I completely agree.
But, yep. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah. Cool.
I just hope, I'm curious what'll happen first. Either somebody will pick up the rights to this and work on a show, or Xbox will stop putting X in everything.
Speaking of that, man, what a reveal.
I didn't actually see the reveal. I just saw the headlines afterwards. I didn't watch, because I was working. I didn't see the Game Awards.
I have to say this. The Game Awards is surprisingly turning into something I care more about than E3.
Well, and it's because the Game Awards was always like this weird little thing that worked for a couple of years, and then Spike just kind of bailed on it.
Yeah.
And you remember the infamous year that Joel McHale hosted it, and it was just a freaking tragedy. Like it was it was one of those train wrecks that you didn't even want to see anymore.
Yeah.
Like it was literally just the Simpsons meme of "Stop it, he's already dead."
Yes.
And then I don't remember if it took a year off or not before Jeff got involved with it and basically was just like, okay, this is mine now, and we're going to do this right.
Yeah.
But ever since he's been in charge and putting everything together and responsible for it, it's been an enjoyable show. And I kind of want to go and watch it too at some point, maybe tonight or tomorrow, just because it's usually a good show all the way around. I may not agree with all the awards. I don't know who won anything. I paid no attention this year at all, really. But even though because I remember the other year where I don't know if I agreed with a lot of the awards, but I still enjoyed the show. It was a great show.
Oh yeah.
And that to me is way more important as a viewer. It's not about like, oh, I was right, this game won the award, blah blah blah. I can get into like, oh, this is a really cool show. It's a great format. It's done by people who give a damn about the medium that they're involved in, and it's run by those people. It's not like the Oscars or the Golden Globes where it's like, here's a company that puts on an award show and you come up and you do things based on how we want you to do them. This is video game people putting on a video game awards show celebrating video games and video game makers.
Yes.
Distributed to video game players.
Yeah.
So they are very mindful of their audience, and it's always been a good product, and I've always really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But give me an overall, how did the reveal go down? Paint me a word picture.
Well, he was showing he showed a few games before that one that were just completely out of left field. It was like, oh wow, that's cool that I wasn't expecting. And when you see shows like this, you think it's just going to be games. I never ever thought they would show a console. And then he was just like, every now and then we get something that comes across us that we think just makes sense. And we wanted to surprise everybody, and we think you guys are going to love this. And then it goes quiet. And then you see a bunch of images of games, and it's talking about your dreams.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, Dreams? Okay, PlayStation has a game called Dreams. Is this like games? Is this like a Dreams commercial trailer thing?
Right, fair enough.
But then you start seeing Xbox stuff, and I'm like, oh shit, are they bringing Dreams to Xbox? And it wouldn't be unprecedented because we just found out about the baseball news, right?
Right, yeah, with the show and everything.
Yeah, so I thought, oh, that's the direction they're going. That's interesting. And then when they started, it was Halo and all, and I was like, oh, that's the new Halo game. That's clearly Halo. And then it showed don't let your dreams, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then they showed this rectangle, and I'm like, are they doing it? And I was in a Facebook group too, talking to a bunch of people about it, and everyone's like, is this the reveal? Everyone's losing their mind. And it was. And it's basically a PC tower.
Yeah, that was my first thought. I looked at that and I was like, oh, cool, Microsoft made a PC. Who knew?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can turn it sideways too.
Yeah, they said that you can, yeah.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a PC tower, and I thought, holy shit, they did it. They just released or they just announced the new Xbox, which makes sense because now Microsoft doesn't have to have their own show this time of year. They can wait to E3 to announce all the little details the date it's coming out, the specs, all that kind of stuff that the super nerds want. But this was a way of hey, this thing that it exists, here's what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's really all they did, and it looked cool. And then right behind it, they showed was it Hellblade or Hell something or another 2?
Oh yeah, it was I always forget, it's Senua 2 or Seuna. It was the studio they acquired. They announced, I think it was at E3 this year that they announced they had acquired it.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's okay, cool. That was something that people were excited for and wanted.
Oh yeah.
So
Ninja Theory, right?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so.
Yes. Yeah. And they were like, here's the Censura or whatever, Hellblade 2.
Yeah.
And it looked gorgeous. It looked like the next gen type of game. And I was like, oh, wow. We're not only getting new consoles being, shown at us, we're also getting titles for next gen at this show.
Yeah.
Before E3, which is huge. We know E3 over the last couple of years has really died down. A lot of these companies have pulled out. And it seems like E3 is not the only show around anymore. And it's not necessarily that bad of a thing. I think if other shows like this are going to be able to it's going to make you now want to watch it. Like, after seeing this year's show, I'm absolutely going to watch the next year, because it's one of those things. It's fun to make fun of it, but at the same time, it's also fun to be surprised.
Yeah.
And I think they know that. They're very aware that people kind of watch the show and rag on it and memeify it. I mean, remember that one guy who was like, "Fuck the Oscars"? Like, they know their audience.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see this. Like, hats off to him, man. It was such a fun show to watch. I had more fun watching that than it reminded me of watching old E3, where the E3s used to be like big surprises and fun to kind of sit there and live talk to people and blog or whatever. I know you like to do it. This was that, because it did seem like there was a commercial. It's a big commercial, the whole thing, but it did seem like, they're throwing ads at you, but at the same time, they're like, oh, and here's this game. Here's Bravely Default 2, which is the sequel and not Bravely Default the Second or Bravely Second. You know what I mean? Like, little things like that. I was like, oh, that's a weird name. But yeah, so anyway, there was just a ton of reveals. The games that won, I think everybody thought Death Stranding was going to get the game of the year because of, his relationship with Kojima and whatnot, but it was Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
Yeah.
Which surprised everybody. Control won a few of them, which from what I understand is one of the best games. I gotta play that for like art direction. It got audio design. Call of Duty won, which I think is really good. Like,
that's fair.
That game, oh man, you log into that and the sound is just phenomenal with all the guns and everything else. Community sport was Destiny 2, which I think is rightfully so. I'm surprised Fortnite didn't get it, but the community behind Destiny 2 are like the changes they've made in that game are really good. I think content creator went to Shroud. I forgot what the other ones were. I think family game, which is the Nintendo award, goes to Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yeah, basically.
If I'm not mistaken, I think every one in that category was a Nintendo game.
That's fair.
Smash got best fighting.
Of course.
Yeah, game direction, which Death Stranding, which makes sense. Disco Elysium got independent game.
Okay.
Which is out on the PC, and I hear it's phenomenal. Mobile, I think, went to Call of Duty. Multiplayer, Apex.
Sure.
Narrative, Disco Elysium. Ongoing game, Fortnite. That makes sense. That game's massive. Mad Mickelson for performance. Disco Elysium for winner. I think like even Elon Musk was there at the show.
Yeah, because his lady is a developer, isn't she?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I have no idea who he's dating. I thought he was just like, what is the phrase, asexual, where he's just like too involved in science to like have a relationship.
No, I say lady because I don't know if it's his girlfriend or fiance. I think it's his girlfriend, but I'm pretty sure she's a developer.
Oh, cool. The cyberpunk stuff was all over the stage. Like, I was like, okay, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if that truck is not in that game.
Right. Like, I feel like it just kind of has to be at this point, if for no other reason than because the jokes. Like,
yes, and I think there was a bunch of announcements. I don't really have them all in front of me, but I'm pretty sure there was a segment with Cyberpunk.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all, really.
Right. My favorite part of the show, though, was the Muppets.
There were Muppets at the show, okay.
Yes, hands down. Go look at the YouTube video, and it was, you know how they have the Untitled Goose Game?
Yes.
Well, I think it was the Untitled Meeker Game. Is that the Muppet?
Beaker?
Beaker, yes.
Oh, no.
And he was,
oh, God.
Oh, and no. It is the most perfect reveal.
That's, alright, I don't know
if it's a real game. I know the Untitled Goose Game obviously is. But when they show the Untitled Beaker Game, it looks like so much fun because it's Beaker instead of the goose.
For sure.
It's perfect. And then they're on stage, they're making their jokes, and then the goose gets on the loose, and it is the most adorable thing I've seen in a long time.
I will bet it's fantastic.
I was smiling from ear to ear the entire time. All their little silly jokes, the breaking the fourth wall because they know the audience is there. The whole audience is just smiling ear to ear. Honestly, they should run the show next year. That should be entirely run by the Muppets. That was the best segment, hands down. So yeah, definitely go on YouTube if you watch anything from the Game Awards.
Yeah.
Watch that. And I'm dude, this is the thing is I'm sure what's his name that runs it? Healy.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure that's one of the things he'll be able to see and go, let's do more of that next time, because that really got people going. Like any article from the Game Awards that talked about that, where like this was the standout moment that we really appreciated. And I imagine you really have to get the people who do the Muppets to come down there and do that whole segment. Like, give me more of that.
Yeah.
Give me more reveals where it's like a tie-in joke, and it's dude, it was just so good. And then the goose is there in Muppet form, and he can't stop knocking things over and trying to steal it. It's so perfect.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and it just looks to the audience and starts shaking. I don't know, it's so good. It was so adorable. Definitely made me want to go watch the Muppet Christmas Carol. So
there you go.
Oh yeah. I was talking. I went saw my mom for a little bit to help her out or whatnot, and we started talking about. She was saying her favorite Christmas Carol. Oh man, now I forget. She was telling me Christmas Carol is one of her favorite things. She loves watching Christmas Carol every year.
Yeah.
I forgot which one it was though, because there's like a million of them.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's tons.
And is it George C. Scott? I think she said was her favorite one.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is one from what is that? The 80s or is that sooner? Yeah, the 1984.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Muppets are hands down the best one. There's no question. They all laughed at me, and I'm like, what? It's the Muppets. You can't get better Christmas Carol story than that.
No,
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch. I mean, you can go on Disney Plus right now, and you can watch the Disney Christmas Carol. You can watch the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah, they have like 2 or 3 just on there. It's nuts.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's massive. I don't know if did we talk about this the last show?
I don't think so, no.
I hate going over the same things, but yeah, there's a Looney Tunes one, there's a Daffy Duck, which is the Looney Tunes one. There's so many different versions of the Christmas Carol.
Well, yeah.
Scrooged is another good one.
Scrooged is fantastic. I think Scrooged is such an overlooked gem. Like Scrooged is tremendous, and nobody gives that movie enough credit.
Yes. I agree. It's really good, and this is the type of year. Go seek it out. I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon. You get if it's not there to play, you can rent it for a couple bucks, and it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the movies that made us last week?
Yeah, we did a little bit.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I've been watching some of that. So anyway, let's get back on track. So yeah, Project Scarlet announced it's going to be Xbox Series X, which I imagine. Because Xbox did talk about they're going to have their baseline, which is what they're announcing now, which makes sense. That's what most people are going to buy. They're going to, who knows, $400 or $500, whatever it's going to be. I imagine they're going to do the Xbox Series S or something like. They'll change the X to a different letter at the end.
Yeah.
To say, here's our super duper one to the people who want. I mean, I don't know how you get better than the 4K native, 8K capable. Up to 120 frames per second. What would be the next one would be 144 frames a second, or I don't know.
I don't know where we go from there. I have no clue.
I imagine it's more space, more storage, and maybe like more RAM, whatever the super duper edition is. Yeah. Whatever it is. Those are for the people who are like you gotta just throw your money away kind of stuff. And there's people out there that's fine. That's cool. But the one that is going to be for the general audience, that's what it is. It's 4K native, 8K capable, up to 120 frames per second. So that's going to play all of the new 4K. If you're out there collecting the physical media, it's going to play all that stuff. 8K is right around the corner. I don't even know if they make physical media in that right now.
I don't think
know
so,
they make
no.
the 4K, but 8K is probably around the corner, right?
I would imagine so, but
yeah. But this is going to play, all of that stuff. And man, the 4K is getting cheaper and cheaper. I saw a TV at Walmart for like $200 and some, 4K.
Yeah, there was something, I saw something at Best Buy, and it was like Vizio or Sony or something, where it was, it was like $350, and it was like a 50-inch TV, and I was like, holy shit, what?
That's way more. That's so affordable now because it's still a lot of money, obviously.
Right, but it's what go back a handful of years. Go back 3 years, and a brand new 4K 42-inch TV would have put you back $1,000.
Yeah, at least $1,000, yes. And so it's definitely affordable now, and that's something you'll have for 5 to 7 years. It's totally worth it, especially if you're really into playing games and watching movies and stuff like that. Especially now with you got Disney Plus that puts out at 4K. You got to watch the Star Wars movies in 4K. Like, if you're looking for a new TV, it's a good time for that. So I thought that was really cool. Backwards compatibility with everything currently supported. So it's not just going to be backwards compatible with Xbox One. It's going to be all the way to like Xbox.
Yeah, if it's backwards compatible now, it will still be backwards compatible with Series X.
Which is awesome. That's them putting their dick on the table for Sony.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I think we all know going into PlayStation 5, at least the purchases you did on PlayStation 4 should carry over because it's the same tech in the machine.
Yeah.
There's nothing. The only reason they wouldn't do it is Sony's just not denying it, if that makes sense. There's no tech reason for them to go, hey, we can't put that on the new system because it just won't work technology-wise. That's bullshit now.
Yeah.
The store and everything else should flow over just fine. Sony would be completely killing themselves. They would be pulling an Xbox next gen if they came out and said, you have to repurchase all your purchases or something like that. That's where I'm out. That's where I'm going full Xbox at that point.
No, and that just makes sense because, again, there's no, they got away with that once.
Yes.
It was like, well, we didn't have the right infrastructure or whatever the hell, and nobody really challenged them on it. But now it's like, no, there's absolutely no reason these cannot be, like, your game library should be able to transfer over.
Yeah,
no question.
This is where I have to look at Nintendo as well. Whenever I'm purchasing on the Switch, and this is where that company I'd be afraid of doing it because they don't care. How many times has someone had to purchase Mario? And I think that's why they're going the route of the monthly basis for those older games because they're just like, hey, give us $20 a year and you can play all these games on our Netflix style service.
Oh, right, but when's the last time like any of those have actually been updated?
I agree. They released the SNES ones, and that's when they changed and said we're not going to do it monthly. We're going to do it more quarterly. I guess what I'm saying is I think Nintendo is the catalog where I think everyone would love to just be able to purchase it once and it move from system to system.
Yeah.
But they have completely failed with that. You can't go on the Switch store and buy, Super Star Wars that you purchased on your Wii. Yeah. You can't purchase Donkey Kong Country that you were able to purchase on your Wii. That the stores didn't flow over. That would be the one company I would be afraid of with the next generation, that it doesn't flow over because they're just that stubborn about it. Nintendo's like, they love to change the way a game is, but they also are extremely stubborn when it comes to that stuff. So that would be the one I'm iffy about. Sony though, they're right there with Xbox right now, trying to compete in that. They're all in the same market, I guess, but you know what I mean. For that kind of system, they have to see what they're doing and go, okay, we have to make it completely backwards compatible. And it would be a nice surprise if they also say, yeah, we're going to somehow figure out where the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, 3, 2, and 1 are backwards compatible as well. that would be huge if they could do that. And there's a lot of it on was it PlayStation Now?
PlayStation Now has a tremendous back catalog. You can't but the biggest problem with PlayStation Now is the same as it always has been, is that there's not enough stuff available for download. Right. It has to be streamed, and that sucks because streaming games, at least with the infrastructure they have, is crap.
Right. And I know everyone's saying that's the future. Even who was the guy that just left Nintendo?
Reggie, yeah.
Oh, he was at the Game Awards, by the way. Looked cool as hell.
You couldn't keep Reggie away from that.
He walked out with the glasses on and his swagger. It was pretty cool. Oh yeah. And I think he has a recent article where he's like, streaming is the future, and it is down the road.
Yeah, sure, in 10 years.
In 10 years, but I don't think we have the infrastructure. We've seen Stadia kind of come and fail miserably.
Which was amazing because Stadia performed flawlessly. For when Google did their alpha test with Odyssey, it was flawless, and I was stunned. Like, I was absolutely blown away. So why a company like Sony can't get their act together to have better quality streaming? And I was streaming it over Wi-Fi. It's the same Wi-Fi. And the fact that I was running it on the difference being I can't get something on a PS4 to stream. I can't stream Saints Row 2 on a PS4, but I could stream Assassin's Creed Odyssey on a 7-year-old MacBook. And
it's crazy.
And it runs flawlessly. I was stunned.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bonkers. And the crazy thing is from what I understand, Xbox Cloud X is fantastic, and I understand that performs even better.
Good.
Yeah, I hear that the Xbox Cloud X performs even better. It's a better deal, I guess. There's a lot of stuff about Stadia that I guess didn't it didn't when it came out. It wasn't everything they were saying it was going to be. There was a lot of issues with like, oh, you have to use this controller, and it was the Google the Chrome cast that they sent out started overheating.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, it originally wasn't intended to do this. So don't use it every now and then. Only use it every now and then. It's like, that's the only way you can do it now. It's just, oh man, it's just bonkers.
Yeah.
But you got to walk before you can run. So sometime down the road, that will all be great. But no, I don't know.
It's a work in progress.
It's definitely a work in progress. But everything Microsoft is doing, I am eating it up. The only thing I think in the last couple of years Microsoft has been missing is the games, and they're working on that.
They addressed that when they were like, okay, fine, let's just buy up 24 third-party studios. It's like, oh, I mean, that'll work.
Yeah, and it's, dude, a couple years ago, no one knew what The Last of Us was. Uncharted was just a baby. What is it, 2000 or PlayStation 3 is when Uncharted came out. There's a lot of PlayStation series that don't have this huge history to it that Xbox could totally start right now. They could totally start good narrative-driven games that get people interested, and in a couple of years from now, they'll be household names, just like a lot of the PlayStation ones are.
Exactly.
And hopefully they do grab up some things like how they got Spider-Man. If somehow Xbox, and I don't like exclusivity or whatever it's called, I would still be happy if suddenly they were like, yeah, KOTOR 3 is coming out on Xbox. I would totally buy an Xbox for that.
That's fair.
I don't like that. But at the same time, I do hope I want them to have a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Because I want them all to be successful, and I think that's how you do it. It was totally fair for Sony to do it with Spider-Man. Microsoft, if they grabbed a big thing like that, and the studios did their work just like Sony's has, it would be great because all the other stuff is perfect. The Game Pass, all of that stuff is, and putting some of their stuff out on Nintendo's software, working with other companies, like it's good. It's everything I want to hear, and so I'm in with the next Xbox for sure.
Yeah.
Apparently, Wheel of Time rumored to be out March next year, or sometime at least by 2020's end.
Okay.
Which is good. So. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to that, and that'll be fun to talk about week to week, or I guess it'll drop all at once. But yeah,
right.
That will be cool. Yeah. Um, cool. All right. Where were we? Okay, yeah. So I guess we'll jump into Mandalorian, then we'll get into Watchmen, and we'll deep dive into that. But what'd you think of this week's Mandalorian?
It was good. I liked it. I liked
Yeah.
that it was, again, it was another one that I'm not sure if it really, quote unquote, moved the story along, but I didn't care.
Yeah.
Again, because we finally got to see Bill Burr's character. We got to see Mr. Krabs.
Yep.
We got.
It was fun.
It was it was an enjoyable episode, and it did show a little bit of the world now post Fall of the Empire.
That's the thing. I think it did some good world building. It also gave us a little bit of his past, with some of the characters and whatnot. You're right. It didn't move the story forward too much at all, which is okay. That's the stuff I'm not really that critical about. I could understand casual viewers would be critical about that because they're not looking for the little Easter eggs and all that other stuff. And it's like, well, hold on. Where are we going with this? Or is he just? I guess I would say now to anyone watching, and you're not really feeling it. I imagine the show moving forward is going to be about a bounty hunter doing bounty hunter things in the Star Wars universe, and that's kind of the idea of it.
Yeah.
And I think at least now we know that's the direction they're going. Now, who knows? This is the first season. They could totally switch it up by the end of the season or season 2. I imagine the last 2 episodes will be kind of like the first couple, where it's very much pushing things forward, because I know for sure we're going to be getting the big bad.
Yeah.
In at least the last episode, probably the next one as well. But we're going to get an idea of kind of more of like, who's trying to get the child and stuff like that. By the way, spoilers ahead for Mandalorian Watchmen. So we say things like Baby Yoda, why.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I imagine that's what will be the next few. I think this was just it goes back to like this is just them playing with their toys. And this whole episode especially felt like action figures, and they just sat down and were like, what cool things can we do with these guys?
Exactly.
And I ate that up, man. I totally ate that up. I couldn't even imagine being 8 years old and seeing this and just having my mind blown away with these characters and in the Star Wars universe. I like that each episode they are adding things to the universe that hasn't been touched in all of this time. I mean, you said the SpongeBob character.
Yeah.
I forget what his name was. Berg. His species. I had no idea they were. Was it flame retardant or whatever? I had no idea that they could. But it makes sense. They look devilish or whatever.
Sure.
I loved the whole episode. They were showing you that this guy is like unstoppable when it comes to like physically harming him, and the Mandalorian was throwing everything at him. And that scene, I know we're jumping ahead, but I thought that scene was especially cool when the door came down and he pops up.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we saw this in the first episode, and then it opens again, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I know Harrison Ford doesn't watch The Mandalorian, but I imagine this scene would hurt watching for him.
That's fair. That's very, very fair.
And I'm shocked that Disney keeps doing door jokes.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Not jokes, but scenes. But yeah, which was cool. I think to me the standout definitely was Bill Burr's character.
He was great. He really was.
Yeah, he played it so well. The whole time I'm like, I want more from this guy. It was clear, so yeah, they go to the space station. He picks up these characters. Bill Burr doesn't know him, but it seems like some of the other ones do. And the whole time they kind of hinted at the idea was to leave this guy behind or to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, who was the Twi'lek? The female Twi'lek. She was in like Harry Potter and Game of Thrones.
Yeah, she was
Zion.
Yeah. I forgot her character name here. Shion, I think.
Shion, yeah.
Because she was her brother, right? They called him. And it's interesting. They called him Kui at different points, but it was she.
Right.
So that I think that lends an interesting kind of Eastern influence because it was spelled the same. When you see QI, most people are going to look at that and pronounce it, Ki or Kui, but it's she because that's a very Eastern thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think this is the first time we've heard their species talk too, in the Star Wars like live action.
Yeah, actually, I think so.
We've heard it in Clone Wars, and they would sound kind of Russian to me, or is that just? Now that I'm trying to think back to Clone Wars.
I don't recall off the top of my head, really.
In the audiobook, they make them sound kind of like Eastern European, like Russian, maybe like Czech or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that. But I could be mistaken. But anyway, I thought that was neat. That's been a species that's been around since the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see them get a little bit of more, and then that's the thing is they're adding little things to it that just cement it in the mythology of it, and I love that.
Yeah.
Like I hope one day we see Ewoks or something like that. That's like I know this show and a lot of other shows get so much shit for fan service, but this is the fan service I want. Like I don't care if it upsets people. That's the kind of stuff I want. I want the little references. When he said, "What do you look like under there?" I bet he's a Gungan. I lost it.
I thought that was fantastic. I died laughing when I heard that. Because I thought that is a dig at everyone who's ever made a Jar Jar joke ever. And I'm down with it.
Oh yeah, and Bill Burr is that's the perfect person to deliver something like that. He's a comedian. He knows what it's like to kind of be on camera, and that is the perfect kind of person to deliver something like that.
Yeah.
Where he's like mocking him, and it was just perfect. It was just so good. And yeah, we see a lot more Baby Yoda in this. He drops him, and I think everyone, stood up when that happened.
How dare you?
Like, nope, he's dead.
Yeah.
But it was just these guys were just all assholes, and I think the whole idea if there's anything from this episode you could say that it did build upon the story, was to show you kind of what the Mandalorian, the group that he used to hang out with, I imagine this was like somebody who goes back and hangs out with a group of people that you knew were bad and that you knew you shouldn't have been around, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that he's clearly become a better person since those days. Now, I think it showed that he kind of always had this honor thing going for him, but I think it's so in his face in this episode that, like, these guys are just bad news, and I can't believe that I was around them. At least that's the feeling I got, was that, like, he definitely stood out among these people, that they're not really him.
Yeah.
And that kind of lifestyle isn't really for him anymore, if that makes sense.
No, it's very fair.
And that's what I got out of it. And so I thought it was cool. And, they get to the ship. They go in, they all have their own little thing. And to me, this was my favorite fight scene with the Mandalorian. With the rebel, hold on, I gotta blow up my nose.
Yeah, with what was his name? Devon, I think his name was.
Devon, the robots,
Oh, not the robots. I was talking about the officer.
Oh yeah, no, I mean the droids. I thought this was like the best fight scene where they see the droids come. Oh, they had the mouse droid. That was cool.
That was funny. I like that.
And they shoot him, and then the rebel droids come. And they, and they're like, wait, where'd the Mandalorian go? And they're like, I knew he'd dip. And then he, like, pops back. He pops from the other side like Batman.
Yeah.
And just kicks their ass. And this looked just so choreographed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was fantastically well done. It really was.
Yeah, with the wires and pulling them. And then at the very end, the blaster through the side of the face. And
you just see fantastic.
Like, it was sick. And then and what was cool is you notice the rebel symbol, the new one. Well, I shouldn't say rebel.
The New Republic.
The New Republic. Yeah, it has the stars around it.
Yeah.
Which is a cool touch. And so, yeah, and so did you notice the species when they were going through the prisoners? The first guy looked like he had a robe on. Like, my first thought was like, is that like a dark Jedi or something? Is that someone that went rogue? Because that's all but then again, Uncle Owen wore a robe too, so it's not just like a Jedi thing.
Yeah.
But it just, I like little things like that where it's like a glimpse of something and you're like, wait, who's this? That's what Star Wars is, right? Like you see these guys at the bar in the original movie and you're like, well, what's that guy's story? He's got a mask, So you see that guy, then you see the species that we saw in Solo.
Yeah.
4 arms. I forget the name of them.
It escapes me.
Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna bother me now. And actually, it was who played the voice of him? The director or the writer?
Oh, you lost me.
Jon Favreau. He played the voice of that species.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. I think it was in Solo. That's right. Yeah. Anyway, where were we?
Going through all the different prisoners. Yeah, because it was a really like interesting scene because they showed they really did just the thing that I really enjoyed about it was the idea that the New Republic isn't just like all peace and love and happiness. Like sometimes you still have to kick some ass.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I like that they had droids. We haven't really seen that except for like, the only droids in the Rebel Alliance that we saw were like R2-D2 and stuff, right?
Right, and these were great. They were like an upgraded version of the original battle droid.
Yes.
That they were a nice. It's like somebody said, "Hey, you have the battle droids and you have the super battle droids. What if we combine the two?"
Yes.
And that was what you came up with. And I'll tell you what, like those things looked badass.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, they definitely did. Yeah. Rio, he played Rio in Solo.
Okay.
Yeah. He's an Ardinian, is the species. So yeah, he had like the 4 arms. They almost look like chimps or something with 4 arms.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you see that species pop up, and then you see like an X Imperial was like the 3rd one. And the 4th one looked like the guy from the Goonies.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but that was cool. But yeah, we see the fight scene. We get to see all their abilities. I like Bill Burr's 3rd gun that just pops out of his back.
Yeah.
Like that's an action figure. I saw an interview with him, and I think it was like with H3, and he was talking about what was wild is like Disney pulled him into a booth that had just like a bunch of cameras, and he had to sign his like DNA away, and he had no idea what was going on, and he realized, oh, this is for the action figures.
Oh yeah.
So like I imagine there'll be a black series of the Mandalorian, because I think I saw the Mandalorian in one of them as a black series. I imagine once the season is over, there'll be a whole bunch.
Probably.
So you'll be able to get a Bill Burr action figure, which is wild. Yeah, and in the interview too, it was funny because he was like, for years he'd make fun of Star Wars and like the culture behind it and the nerds and stuff like that. But he was like, once I got into it, and he's like, once I went to Comic-Con, he went to Comic-Con to host the Breaking Bad thing. He said it really did change his perspective, and he realized that yes, they're very obsessive. Not obsessed. They are obsessive, but they're very polite though. The people there, he's like, you go online, it's a whole different ball game. But the people there that sign that pay the money, that pay the tickets to see you, he was like, they couldn't be sweeter. He was like, he said he went to a baseball game recently, and he usually gets sports fans that are like, hey Bill, they're all drunk and rowdy and whatever. He was like, the sweetest guy came up to me. He clearly was a bit of a nerd, but he was just like, hey Bill, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in The Mandalorian, and he was like, the guy couldn't have been nicer. And he was like, that's the one big takeaway from this, is that like it really changed his perspective on it. And I thought that was a cool little story.
Yeah, I think that's cool. That's
someone from the outside that it's so easy to make fun of and be cynical about nerds and Star Wars and all this stuff, but like it's cool to see someone on the outside come in and go, oh hey, it's not that bad. At least face to face, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Online's a whole other ball game, especially if someone doesn't get what they want.
Uh-huh.
But especially at Celebration, man, if you're gonna pay that money to travel, you're gonna pay that money to be there. Those are all the big fans that are just in love with it. Even if something comes out that's not that good, it's like, hey, we still love it. It's still part of it. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, so I mean that was really the episode. They and then they trap him. They get her brother. And then it kind of turned into like a little bit of a horror with the red lights, and it kind of turned into like, now you're locked in here with me deal.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a very Rorschach thing of just like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yes, and one of my favorite scenes is where I think it was with Bill Burr, where the lights were flashing, and it would
Oh
show
my
him.
god, I love that scene so much. It was
Yeah.
amazing, just the way everything's dark and that quick flash of light, and you'd see him, and it was just the best part of that was the last scene where he's standing right behind him, and Bill turns that way while it's dark, and he misses him, and because he's come around the other side. It was that was just magnificently done. It was so good.
It really was. The director of this, Rick Famuyiwa, I'm sorry.
Rick Famuyiwa, yeah, who did the Dope. He was also in the episode.
He was. Probably, he's my favorite director out of all of them.
That's fair.
In this episode in 2, 2 hasn't been my favorite episode, but I'm saying these two combined, it's like, I like this style.
Yeah, I'm good with that, yeah.
Yeah, especially like in the second one where it turned very much into Indiana Jones.
Yes.
It just felt like a badass, and in this episode, it was the same as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
He just felt like a badass. So anyway, I guess my biggest criticism of this, a little bit of the acting was over the top, but it never took me out of it. Like, maybe her hissing, I could have done with a little bit less of. Like, I felt like this was like, someone at the beginning of this should have said, we some kind of Suicide Squad, because that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
But that would be my only criticism, is it felt a little bit over the top with that, but at the end of the day, you have a devil man, you have a guy with a gun coming out of his back, you have a Twi'lek who I imagine to most people it just looks funky. So at the very end of the day, it's a very goofy thing, but I loved it. I loved the heist type of feel of it, where they're like, we got to break this guy out. The whole time I was wondering who it was too, because I'm like, when they started saying, oh, this guy is in a rebel prison, I'm like, who could they possibly be talking about? And of course, my mind is like someone we might already know, which is stupid because it obviously wasn't.
Yeah.
And the Star Wars universe is bigger than that, but I guess for so long we were trained that everyone's connected when Luke was suddenly Leia's sister, her brother, and everything.
It's fair.
But I thought it was cool. We had no idea who it was. It was his brother. Throws him in there. They escape. We talked about them getting all, and I thought he killed some of them, but then we find out later that he didn't.
Yeah.
And, the last guy, the guy they escaped, is like right there getting away. And he's like, hey, if you kill me, you won't get the bounty. So like he let him live. And then, we didn't really talk about Zero. I thought that was such a cool droid.
I liked Zero. I did.
Yeah, I really did too. I'm sad that he got killed, but I mean, it makes sense that he'd have to get killed because how just close he got to killing Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
The actor, now I haven't seen, he's from the IT Crowd, right?
Yeah, Richard Ayoade.
Yes, and it's a series that I never saw. You've talked about it before.
Yeah, I know him better. I'm not, I never really got into the IT Crowd. I know him because I watch a ton of, British panel TV shows.
Gotcha.
All of their different, this is by the same company that did Whose Line Is It Anyway kind of shows.
Right.
And he's on all of those.
Cool.
So
cool.
I was familiar with him, and I saw that name, and I was like, oh, well, that's gonna be neat.
Right.
I don't think he has the physique that Kumail Nanjiani has now, but it was fun to see him involved in that.
Yeah. Oh, man, do you want to know a weird thing that I just saw? I looked up his IMDb. For some reason, Jeff Foxworthy popped up, and I was like, that's not the same guy.
That's not.
In my head, I thought that would be a funny droid voice I would hate.
Okay.
That would completely take me out of it.
That's fair. Yeah.
That would be funny to run across a Jeff Foxworthy. But anyway, sorry. But yes, I thought he did a great job with Zero. And Zero was, I really like the part where he was like, he's driving, and the Mandalorian was like, there's no way anyone could make that kind of move. And he was like, a droid can.
Yeah.
And it showed. As soon as they got a hyperspeed, he did all the right moves, even though those guys were being thrown all over the ship. But he was able to do it in such a way they weren't detected.
Yeah.
And it was cool seeing a droid act like that. That droid seemed menacing to where, the ones in the prequels felt just like a comic relief. Where this one was like, oh, I wouldn't want to be in the same room with this guy because he could destroy you.
It's fair. Very fair.
Yeah, but it was cool, and I like the end where Yoda is wise enough to know, Baby Yoda, that this thing was not, his intentions weren't good, especially because he had the gun. So he puts his hand up, realize it doesn't affect a droid. We know that, I guess, as the audience, and then he gets his head blown away.
Well, it's not that. I mean, I think that Baby Yoda, it just confirms like he doesn't actually know how to use the Force.
Well, that's what I mean. That's his defense, is like, hey, I'm gonna use this thing, and he doesn't know how it's going to work. You're absolutely right. He doesn't know the rules like Yoda would. Obviously, that's hundreds of years old. He's just like, hey, I know this thing will work on a lot of the things. Like, let me try this because it's the only way I can protect myself.
Yeah.
And in the Mandalorian, this is kind of the reverse of episode 2, if you think about it. It's the Mandalorian that saves the day for him.
Yeah.
Blows his head away. And I liked how he just looks at his hand like, did I just do that? But yeah, it was adorable. And I like at the end that he was just like, I told you that wasn't a good idea, and he hands him the ball.
That to me was just fantastic. Like,
yes.
that was adorable, where he just unscrews the thing and hands it back to him. I was like, that's just aw. Like, yeah. I had nothing beyond that.
Right. And I think this episode just kind of solidified, at least to me, that those people that's not his life anymore, and he has moved on from that. He's matured from that.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be interesting how he's going to make money. How are you going to be a bounty hunter with a heart of gold in this universe? It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Especially with a child on board. Like every time he keeps doing this, it's like, wait, you're putting him in danger. You can't do this anymore with a kid. So I'm curious how this is all going to play out. I think the next few episodes. Oh yeah, we didn't even get to it. Sorry. One of the most amazing parts is, so he brings him back to the space station, drops him off, no questions asked, and he goes to take off. And the ship that pops up, it almost looked like a pre-Empire ship. It looked like an Old Republic ship. Not Old Republic, but you know what I mean, the Republic ship.
Yeah.
It looked like one of the fighters from Naboo, essentially.
Yeah.
That style. And then, of course, they find out that
because I wondered where that beacon, because we kind of skipped over the scene with actual, like, the one organic person on board. That whole scene of, like, there's a dude here. Like, what the hell? There's not supposed to be an actual person here.
Right.
And they're just kind of like, yeah, well, kill him. No, don't kill him. Kill him. Why? We don't have to kill him. And then they kill him. But the consequence of that was it triggered that homing beacon. And it's like, well, they're going to show up and just shoot first and not bother asking questions. Right. Which I thought was an interesting trait to give the New Republic.
Yeah. Like, hey, here's this thing. If you set it off, we will come and destroy wherever the beacon is. Yeah. No questions asked. And that was the voice actor of Anakin Skywalker, right?
Yes, it was. Yes. From the Clone Wars.
From the Clone Wars, yeah. And so, they set that up that, like, hey, there's this thing. It goes off. They're coming here to destroy it. There's no questions asked. We have to get out of here. We have 20 minutes.
Yeah. And so they leave, and I was kind of wondering, like, well, did they just show up and there's nothing going on there, so it set something else up? What is it? No, he left it with the brother.
He left it with the brother, so he went and it destroyed that space station.
Yeah.
Which is, man, like, there's probably a lot of innocent people on that space station. Well, I guess they're all kind of bad.
Are there really, though?
It's kind of whoa, he just destroyed that space station.
I mean, it really kind of would have been like somebody blowing up the cantina. It's like, yeah, that sucks, but is anybody really going to mourn anybody that was in there?
Right, we can't think about it too much. It'll just get like, oh, what just happened? I'd like to think that it was just them two like everyone's that's his house, and everyone's left. Not working on ships right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, we saw. I thought that I didn't see that coming. I didn't see him putting it on him, and it just let us know that the Mandalorian is wise. He's smart. He knows what he's doing. And the 3 X-Wing fighters were the 3 directors.
Yeah, which I thought was fantastic. I thought that was a fantastic little trio of cameos.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I even think, like, they gave them canon names. I think Dave Filoni's is, like, I think his name is like the Wolf something or another, which of course,
yeah,
like a hunter or something like that. Or no, it's like Wolf Trapper or something like that. But yeah, so we got episode 7. And throughout this episode, we saw Carl Weathers' character on a hologram.
Yeah, the one that we saw. What episode was that? 2, 3?
Yes. Well, it was a new message. It was basically, I think it was him trying to like get the Mandalorian to talk to him.
Was it a new message?
I'm pretty sure it was a new message.
I don't think so. I think it was an old message.
Oh, I don't know. I gotta rewatch it. I took away that he was like trying to meet up with him.
Nah, I
like
think
deliver the child and blah 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 blah.
I'd say I think it was a new message.
Okay.
Or it was an old message. That's what I think it was old.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that was it. I mean, I thought it was a great episode. I loved the cameos. There was a ton in this.
Yeah.
It didn't stand out too much where it completely took me out of it. The only thing I guess it did towards the end, but I loved that. I'm glad that they're in there. There's the 3 directors.
Yeah. And it was a fun, like, that's a perfectly great use of a cameo. These characters didn't need to be important. They're never going to be seen again. So it's fine. Let that be that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And, yeah, so we got 2 more left. We got one coming in a day or so away, Wednesday.
Yep.
Wednesday morning, we'll be able to all watch it. And then the following episode is going to be after episode 9. And I doubt it has any tie-in with Rise of Skywalker, but that'd be cool if there was some sort of something that connected them in some way.
I doubt it. I really think it's
highly doubt it. Yeah.
It's just that synergy of like, look, we're not going to put out an episode on the same day as this movie comes out. We're not stupid.
No. The only thing I'm thinking of is like an Easter egg. Is if there's something mentioned in the movie or show that has some tie to it, or someone just walking in the background. That's literally all they have to do.
But that's possible.
Because the way I see this last one is, this is the end of the Skywalker saga, and I think they really are trying to touch everything at once while telling the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying is I think that would be a fun surprise if there's a mention or a name or even a planet that's just talked about for a second, that connects them, that for the general audience goes right over their head, but the people who have been watching week to week Mandalorian, they're like, oh shit, I know that name, or
it's
whatever.
Fair. Yeah, it's fair.
That's all. But we'll see. And then of course, yeah. So it's kind of like it's on the eve of the Rise of the Skywalker, and then we have the post as well. So it's right after it. So
yeah.
But yeah. So that was good. Let's you want to dive into some Watchmen, man. So we talked a little bit about it last week. You saw a few episodes. I've been watching week to week, and it's been just a joy. It's totally reminded me of Lost. It's, like I said last week, it might be my favorite series.
Yeah.
Of first season of all time. Lost is usually my bar. I can't think of a better, well-put season. Now, again, we've said before that we're going to be talking about spoilers. But let me ask you, because you caught up the last few weeks on a lot of the episodes.
Yeah.
What did you think of it, man? What did you think of Watchmen?
It's a show.
Yeah.
It's a very well constructed, well designed thriller, I want to say, because it's a great mystery that then dives into being a thriller. Those last 2 episodes, the last one especially, where you go sprinting towards the finish, but it's not rushed. Like, this is just what it's been building to, and when it comes to the end, man, it hits it hard.
Well, and just like Watchmen, it starts with the mystery.
That's true. It does.
Who killed, who killed the comedian, who killed Ned? And then you find out very fast who did it, and you find out that's not the point. Like, that's not the overall mystery or whatever of the show, that there's something way deeper here.
Yeah. This
is to me, by far and away, the best soft reboot of any franchise I've ever seen that still continued it as it's still a canon or whatever.
Yeah.
This is the best it's ever been done, and it is to me just as good as the original, if not better. and it doesn't take anything away from the original. This is the Old Testament and the New Testament, if that makes sense. And I think that's how Damon Lindelof treated this. They referred to the original comic as the Old Testament, and they treated it as canon.
That's fair.
And they were like, this is the new story. This is the best way to tell that story and to keep it fresh and different, but at the same time completely honoring it. And in all the same story beats, like you said, it starts out with a mystery, but it changes completely and it turns into something different. And it has all, I mean, dude, like the eggs. The whole season they've been showing us eggs. Every episode. The smiley face. The eggs are the new smiley face.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I think that's the first image we see of the smiley face in the first episode is them making the eggs. And her talking about it and her talking about everything that happened in Tulsa and whatnot. And it's in every episode. The lady who sells her eggs on that farm, breaking the eggs, like him at the bar with it. It's just all about eggs, and a lot. This whole season had to do with generations and fertility and all that other stuff, and passing things on, and all the little hidden messages and all the little stuff. It was so good, and like I said, this is the kind of show that you want to come out weekly because you get a week between time and you get to talk to people about it. And I have a little group of friends that I talk to about this show where I'm just like, this reminded me of Lost. And this stuck the landing where I think Lost didn't stick the landing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from what I understand, The Leftovers, I got to check out. Because everyone's saying if you liked Watchmen, check out his Leftovers. It's very much in the same vein, where they feel they stuck the landing with it. And yeah, man, it's just, dude, it went so many places I wasn't expecting. The whole idea of the Hooded Justice and his backstory, and that was the one character that Alan Moore never fleshed out.
Yeah.
It was always a mystery. His entire story was. And that was the story. That was this whole season was about him. Dude, it opened up in that same theater that it ended in.
Yeah.
And what he saw on the screen and what inspired him on the screen. And what he did later on in life when he was hung in New York City by his fellow police officers. To me, the episode 6 was the best episode. That style, how they did it, where she took the nostalgia pills and she was seeing her grandfather's life.
Yeah, that whole episode was a trip. And I mean,
it was a little jumbled.
Yeah.
So like it would cut from like her being in the city in a car driving down the street to the imagery of the kid when he was in Tulsa seeing, the black community being dragged down the street. And there was, that's kind of how, when I was watching it, it was like, wait, why are these people being dragged down the street in the middle of the city and no one's seeing this? And I was like, oh shit, these nostalgia pills are fucking her up.
Yeah.
And then you see like throughout the episode, they'll open up a door and it's like the city burning, but they're having sex on the bed or whatever. And it's like all of these things are coming together, and it's because. And it goes to the Manhattan thing of it all happening at once. All of these memories, all of this matters. All of it is, it doesn't go away. It stays with him throughout his life, and it molded and shaped him, and not just him, but also clearly his family moving forward. It was like it was all passed down, and I think that's the idea of the show.
Yeah,
is that you pass this stuff down. I thought it was brilliant that it opened up with what it did with the Tulsa stuff. That's the so many people don't know. I didn't know about it.
Well, because that's the thing that was crazy, right. Because it was legally declared something that couldn't be taught.
Right.
In Oklahoma.
By Congress.
Yeah. And they were like, we don't discuss this. And that by itself,
it's crazy.
Just in principle, let alone, without adding the layer of what it was about, but just that idea alone. That, oh yeah, by the way, here's a genuine tragedy where aircraft was used on our own citizens. You will talk about a hate crime.
Yeah.
But the idea that something like that, no, we're just going to make it so that you can't legally talk about that. That should scare the absolute hell out of everybody.
It's insane. Like, we have no problem talking about the the horrendous crimes of Nazi Germany.
Yeah. But,
or Stalin, or any other country, it seems.
Yeah, but we used aircraft on our own people. And it's like, yeah, no, you're absolutely not allowed to teach that. And the fact that was allowed and that nobody said, hey, what about the First Amendment? Like, that, I mean, that should have been the beginning and end of it right there. But it didn't.
Well, it's the reparations thing. Like, that went up to, like, they won it, and then it went to, I think, like, Supreme Court or something like that, and then it was turned down.
Yeah.
And that was all used in here. That's was it the Redford?
Yeah, they called them Redfordations.
Yes, yeah. They use it as something. It was almost coined as like a derogatory thing.
Yeah.
In it, and just depended on what color skin you had, I guess, or how you felt about it. And it all felt that's exactly what would probably happen in our world if it went that way.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved when Adrian, comes back and he's just like, Robert Redford's been alive for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Or not alive, but he's been president.
He's been president.
You didn't
for 20
expect
years?
that.
No.
Yeah. Oh, his whole journey. And
that was a trip and a half.
That was such a trip. And him coming back, and at some point I went from like hating him to like not championing him, but like I was rooting for him, and I think we all were kind of towards the end where it was like, yes, this lady needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
But I also like at the very end they're like, no, you're going to jail, asshole.
Yeah.
Like, you killed fucking how many people?
3 million.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're sorry. And those two characters ending up working together towards the end makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she felt a lot like, oh, this guy kind of reminds me of Rorschach. It was just so cool. His whole episode too, and his journey, and how he was used his whole life.
Yeah.
Starting from the beginning, his origin story. Like, they did such a good job making these characters, not just comic book characters, but like the way comic book movies and stuff try to do origin stories. I don't think you can get better than the ones we saw in this season.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, especially Angela, her grandfather. Those two alone, right there, are some of the best character origin stories and arcs in any comic book thing I've ever seen. And then, of course, I like his as well, because his was like, at first you're like, I don't know how to feel about this guy. He's kind of a jerk. He's a dick. He's blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But then you see his journey, and it very much was like Rorschach. But like, it was like, oh, this guy's just been used his whole, like, you just see how people use him. And I think maybe some people, they fell for that. They're like, yeah, I've been in a situation where I was just completely used. The wool was pulled over my eyes. And just when you think it's okay to let someone in again, it happens again.
Yeah.
And by the end of that episode, I was like, oh God, I hope nothing happens to him. Cause it's like, they made you feel something for this dude by the end of it. And then you're like, I don't want him to die.
No, it was a trip.
Yeah, it was good. It was so good. And like I said, the 6th episode was my favorite because it really just fleshed out his character. There was a lot of surprises that I just wasn't expecting. The whole reveal that, Hood of Justice was not a white man. He was a black man, because if he was a white man in that time, no one would have followed him. No, if it was a mass vigilante going out and, beating up people in the middle of New York City, they would have hung him, obviously.
Yeah.
Because in that time period. So that was perfect. And then of course stuff with his relationships, that it was such a surprise, and they did such a good job setting it up.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah, that by that time you felt you understood the character, you knew his motivations, and everything, just the pieces fell into place. And that's the thing I'll say about David Lindelof. I love mystery. That's my favorite part of any story. That's my favorite. When I go look for a movie, I want something to surprise me. I want to wonder the entire time. Going into the Rise of Skywalker, I have so many questions. And to me, not everything needs to be answered. As long as as long as I get some sort of euphoria at the end, as long as I get some sort of peace with what they give me, and some answers are there, I'll be fine. And he does that so well in this. He leaves just enough of mystery that I'm sure people will pick apart and wonder, especially the very end when, it's kind of like the spinning tabletop from what's that movie? The Chris Nolan
Inception,
movie.
the spinning top.
Inception. Yeah, there's kind of that moment at the end where it's like he's handing the baton over so that that's the thing. Like, I know we're jumping all around. I'm sorry, but do you think that because he's talked about this whole time that his idea was for one season?
Yeah, which he told.
Yes, and that he wanted to tell beginning, middle, and end, and it be its own little thing.
Yep, and he succeeded in that.
And he succeeded at that, and he, there was an interview he did with Black Man Beyond. What's his name? Kevin Smith's dude. The guy who co-hosts.
Yeah. Shoot, I can't remember.
Fat Man on Black Man.
Yeah, I can't. It's Alex something, isn't it?
I thought it was Mark Bernard.
Mark Bernard, that's it. I'm sorry if your name is Jim or Bob or Steve or Bill or Mark, like they're all the same to me.
I always remember him as Black Man Beyond because once they coined that, I was like, that's such a cool nickname.
Yeah.
And that's what he goes by whenever it's Fat Man on Batman and it's just Mark. He goes Black Man Beyond, and he says at the beginning of the episode. So it's
fair
really cool.
enough.
Yes. And I think that's like the. But yeah. Anyway, so he did a not an interview, but it was like I guess it was at some Writers Guild thing, some writers meeting where he got Damon Lindelof for an hour, and he got to ask a bunch of questions, and then some of the audience did, and I mean, go listen to it. Imagine it's good, especially with someone like Mark Bernard, who is a writer, a black writer in Hollywood, that he asks super important questions like, how did you come at this? And how did you come at this like you're a white man telling the story?
Yeah.
And David Lindelof is like, I was very aware of that going into this. And he was like, and I think it's important to know that David Lindelof turned this down to begin with like twice. And finally, when it got time to where like he was done with The Leftovers, he knew that they were going to go ahead with somebody. Why not tackle it?
Yeah.
He had an idea, especially it was all the things were lining up. He said he was on a plane reading a book. I don't have it in front of me, and it was about the massacre, and he would talk to people about it, and he was shocked that no one knew about it. So he knew he wanted to somehow enter that into some sort of story because he felt it was an important thing that people knew about. And unfortunately, in 2019, the only way people seem to get information is from their television or movies.
Yeah.
And so he thought that would be an interesting way to tell a story about in Watchmen, because that's what Watchmen's all about. It's very political. It's shocking the people who just find out, like the people who watched the first episode, and they were like, "Why has everything got to be political?" It's that's Watchmen. You can't have it without the other. So, but it's a very interesting conversation, and David Lindelof. I'm not going to go over it here. Definitely go listen to it. It's on their YouTube channel. And it's just it's an awesome talk, and it's a very good look at behind the scenes where, I think like 7 of the 9 episodes were directed by women. When he went into it, he wanted his writers to not be all, generic white male. He needed a mixture. He got people of color. He found out later that he actually hired on some people that he only knew one of them was gay openly because they said it. And I guess the guy said it in the interview. Of course, those questions weren't asked, but he was like, it came out that, and you need those kind of voices to tell that kind of story, or it could be bad,
Yeah.
And so, and he talks about how he had this idea that it would be this, whatever thing, but he early on into it, he realized that he very much took a step back and let them go, and it was just it's an interesting thing to hear about, especially because I'm not a part of that world of writers or whatever. It was interesting hearing these two talk and how Mark Bernard has had, his journey in Hollywood. It's probably very different than Damon's.
Yeah, I would
and,
imagine so.
exactly, and representation and all of that, and it's a really good listen. Go listen to it. And also there's an official Watchmen podcast with David Lindelof that does for HBO. There's 3 episodes out now, the first 3 episodes he does a podcast, the second 3 he does another, and then the third 3 he does another.
Yeah, so that third one will be up by now. Yeah, no, we talked a little bit about that last week, but
yeah. So if you want to know some inside baseball for that, go listen to it. And yeah, so I don't know if HBO will do another season. I hope that if they do, they give it time and that they make sure the story means something. I don't want this to be serialized where it's like there's a new season every year and it just gets worse and worse and worse. This is going to be hard to pick up the ball from.
Yeah.
Where do you go from here? I mean, I think we all kind of like, the stuff with Angela at the end, and her story. Obviously, I think that's where you would pick up from. But what story do you tell? This was how many years after Watchmen?
30 something?
Right. So there's been way more than enough time
because it's
where
modern. It's set today, basically.
Right.
And the first Watchmen was 85, right? So 34 years.
Right. So there's been so much time away that there's a way to tell a story with all of these characters and all of these events. You couldn't just be like, well, here's another crazy story that happened 2 weeks later. Like, it'd have to. I just want it to be worth it. And I think that David Lindelof was like, hey, look, this is not I don't own Watchmen. I told them I had a season. I was going to work on a season. He was like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't think there would be another one because surely they would want to do another one. But he's like, I don't have anything in mind. And you just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah.
So I imagine if they do another one, if they do it with him, it would be a few years out before he has some sort of idea or story. He did talk about in that interview that he did want to do. Actually, he mentioned The Mandalorian a bunch. He was like, moving forward, I kind of want to do some original stuff. He's like, but the problem is every time I do that, I do get suckered back into a current big franchise.
Yeah.
Because he was watching Mandalorian, and he was like, how much would I love to jump into this universe? How much fun these guys must be having playing with all of these toys.
That's fair.
But it is very restrictive.
Yeah.
That was the one thing he was talking about, is like, you with those kind of stories, especially Star Wars, we've seen how many directors and whatnot they've gone through. It's extremely restrictive. Even more than I would say Watchmen was to him. But, he talked about, I don't know. I keep going on about that. Just go listen to it. It's really good. But The Watchmen is a show in general. Dude, I loved it. There was just, we haven't talked about so much of it. All this stuff with, I don't know, the True and her family and the clones.
That was messed up.
Dude, the episode that opened up with her and that family there.
Yeah.
There's so many Easter eggs. I'm so mad that I don't have my notes from last week. There are if this is one of those things, if you go back and rewatch, you're going to catch so many things, so many references, so many hints, all the little Easter eggs throughout the season. The music cues are all taken from things that have been said in the original Watchmen, like the musicians, the Pale White Horse, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
All of that is just throwbacks. Even when she was in Vietnam, dude, and the whole did we talk about last week the Spielberg movie?
Yes, I think a little bit.
Yeah, like in this universe, instead of doing Schindler's List, he does the Pale White Horse, which is the story of that band.
Yeah.
Who went to New York City before, and then the squid dropped. There's so many references throughout this show. Like the Pale White Horse is on a painting, and you find out that painting was owned by what's his face, and there's so many little things. It's just I couldn't gush more about this. I'm just mad I don't have my notes. But this is the last time we're going to talk about Watchmen. Next week I'm going to have some of my notes, and I know we're done kind of with the overall Watchmen, but I'm going to bring it because I want to talk about a lot of the Easter eggs.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because it's definitely worth. This is going to be something that I'm going to be rewatching, just like Lost, or at least just pushing off to people to say, you need to go watch this series. in the next 5 years, I'll be telling people, like, if they're like, hey, I don't know what to watch, go watch Watchmen. It's 9 episodes. It's all contained. As long as you've seen I think you can get away with it just seeing the movie. Just someone would have to explain the end of the movie is a little bit different. It's Squid Drops instead of it being Dr. Manhattan. And you can at least get a general idea of, like, oh, I know who that character is, or who she is, or he is, and what they're trying to say. But yeah, man, all the stuff with the clones, and I just love that symmetry with it, where, like, it was so hard to watch where she tosses the dog into the, like, bin to kill it.
Yeah.
But he was doing that with the babies. Like, it was symmetry. And it was just, everything was blowing my mind. I was just like, this is so good. How well written is this? Where they were like, we're writing, they were writing, okay, so, when it's revealed that who Dr. Manhattan's been the whole time?
Yeah.
They were dropping all of those hints at the very beginning. Did we talk about that before? How his name is Kal from, Kal-El, like Superman?
I didn't get that.
Did we talk about that?
No.
Oh yeah, first episode when she says Kal, and how deadpanned he is telling his children about what happens when you die.
There is nothing. That to me was my first thing of, like, okay, this dude is like, okay, what is up with him?
Right, and a lot of people that know, no matter what you believe in, you still tell children differently, right? Like, or at least that's how a lot of people do.
Yeah, you don't just drop, like, that you're born, you live, you die, and that's the end of it. You don't drop that on kids. You
don't take the innocence away that young. Absolutely. And I think that was the biggest, hint. And dude, it's such a, they were dropping all these Superman hints. Kal-El, he's got the hidden personality. And you go back and watch this show, and you'll see, what's her name? The whole time, Dr. Manhattan's ex-girlfriend.
Lori.
The whole time she's obsessed with Kal, and she doesn't realize it. She's like, that's the first thing she says is she's like, oh, hey, Kal. Like, she's totally into him. She thinks he's super attractive. And it was like, of course. It's because she doesn't realize that it's actually her ex. But the whole time she's just gushing over him. And it's because of these writers that they make things in normal shows important in this show, where it's just like, I thought that was just filler. I thought that was them just wasting a few minutes introducing her boyfriend who wasn't important at all.
Yeah.
Throughout most of the show. And they have all these little hints of who he is. All the books that he's reading. All of the books tie into it in some way or form or another. I even like the Beatles song at the end. What was it, The Walrus?
Yeah, God, that's right.
I am he. Yeah, it's totally, and I think that was the lyric of the episode, right? Like, it comes from the sky or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it just all tied in. It was all just wrapped up in a nice little bow. A lot of the things that people guessed came true, but they still, they did such a good job showing you a character hiding in plain sight the whole show, and that's exactly what they did with the comics with Rorschach. The whole comic, you're reading it, you don't realize that this little character that they keep showing with the sign, the end is nigh, is not important. And then by the end of it, you find out, oh, that's been him the whole time.
Yeah.
And the Watchmen does such a good job about hiding these things in plain sight. And that's what they did with him, with Kal-El, and him, the big reveal. It's so rare for shows to shock and surprise us these days.
It's fair.
And Watchmen did such a beautiful job with it. I couldn't be happier with this show. The premise, how weird all the stuff with Jeremy Irons. It all makes sense at the end. But when you're watching it, you're like, this is some batshit crazy.
It's like, this is just, like, this is absurd. It's genuinely absurd. And you're like, what in the hell is going on here?
Especially when he gets to the pigs.
Yeah, my God.
Yeah, it's just so ridiculous. But I guess that makes, like, man, go into the new Rockstars, I think it is, their deep dives into every episode in the Easter eggs. What I'll do is I'll put them on our Facebook group. I'll start with the first episode, and then in the comments below, I'll post them all. They are just man, you're just gonna be blown away by how many different Easter eggs they put in there that just completely went over my head. But when you watch it, you're like, that makes sense. That totally makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm in love with it. I love what the show says. I love their message. I love how they put it in such a way that was just kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time. I couldn't turn away. Personally, this is my favorite show this year. My favorite show in a very long time. This is going to win all the awards, I think. Unless there's something I missed. I mean, I guess maybe like Chernobyl or something, whatever, will probably take it. But Watchmen, to me, is far and away the best thing I've seen in a very long time. But yeah, I'm interested to see what they do next.
It's gonna be curious to see where it goes from here. It really is.
Oh yeah. Yep, definitely gonna be curious where they go with it. If they do anything else, I'm curious what Damon Lindelof's gonna do next. I like that he dropped a bunch of stuff about Mandalorian, but I think it was unfortunately was like, hey, that's something I would love to do, but it's probably not the right move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you watch anything this year, go check out Watchmen. I know HBO is expensive. I think if you've never signed up for HBO Now and you own an Apple device, you get it free through iTunes for a month. Actually, I think you don't even have to have iTunes. I think HBO Now offers a free month through anything.
Huh.
Yeah. At least it did when it came out. HBO Now, like most things, I think it gives you a free month.
Yeah.
HBO Now, free trial. Let's see here. Yeah, get HBO free with free subscription trial. You get the first month free. I'm sorry. Stream 7 days for free, then $14.99 a month. So hey, so you get it for a week. You can knock this out in a week. It's definitely worth it. Or go borrow a family member's HBO code. Go get it. Go get it legally. But yeah. So anyway, I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to say about it?
That is a great, I mean, we hear Abrams talks about the mystery box all the time. This is that kind of storytelling.
Right.
And it's something that Lindelof did well for a while, and I think he learned from Lost that less is more.
Yes.
That a smaller, and I will take, if this show is one and done, good. I'm perfectly happy with this because it's something that it's like many TV shows, it didn't need to be made. It's not something anybody was really clamoring for, but
that's the thing. It's funny you say that.
Yeah.
Because he talked about that in the interview about Lost and how that should have never happened. Lost was the guy who greenlit Lost thought that he was out of a job. I guess what was happening with AOL and ABC. He talks. Go listen to the interview. He talks about how Lost was a fluke because the guy who greenlit it and said, "Go for it, go shoot this $1 million." At the time, it was absurd how much money they were spending on the pilot.
Well, yeah, that's true.
He was saying the producer behind it thought he was being fired. He thought that he was being shown the door the next year. So he said, "Fuck it. Go do this idea about a survivor." They pitched it as Survivor and then a big mystery behind it.
Yeah.
And that was the only way it got made was because the studio thought they were doing something that was popular, Survivor. They had no idea it was going to be this big genre show.
That's fantastic.
And there's no reason it should have happened. It's the studios would have never spent that kind of money on a show with that kind of a risk. Lost changed everything, to me at least, because you don't get shows like this if it's not for Lost.
No.
You don't get shows like Heroes if it's not for Lost.
No, absolutely. No, Lost was a game changer in TV, no question.
Yes. Now, there's a ton of things that have failed, and David Lindelof has talked about it. He's done things that have failed. He's not untouchable. I think that's every artist, right?
Yeah.
And I just think he's gotten better and better. You don't get Lost storytelling without Watchmen because all of that is Watchmen. The way they tell the story in such a chopped up order between the past and the future and the present, that would have lost so many audiences, but people latched on to Lost, and what we talked about it. A lot of people don't like it. Don't believe it sick the landing. I think it did, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people, it's very hard to get that mystery box right, and that's exactly what you were just talking about. I think with Watchmen, he nailed it because at the end of it, you walk away satisfied, and you have to do that. You can't let the audience not have that come to Jesus moment towards the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, the story, there has to be an end to a story, especially when there are big questions that have to be answered. You talked about Rise of Skywalker. We're not going to know absolutely everything. Hell, we didn't learn anything. My favorite thing to point at is the original trilogy. We knew jack about the Emperor the entire time. We didn't even know he was a thing until Empire. And it wasn't, who is he, what was he? He was just the Emperor. He was just the evil guy.
And you're supposed to wonder you're not supposed to get obsessive and say the studio owes you an answer. You're supposed to wonder who it is.
Yeah.
You're supposed to kind of come up with your own headcanon, and it's supposed to make you just use your imagination. Like, that's the whole idea. And he talks about in that interview, which I've been saying everyone needs to go listen to, is he talks about how he likes to be confused during things. As long as there is that come to Jesus moment at the end where everything kind of comes together and you have that euphoria, like, oh, eureka, that, of course. As long as you get that at the end, you're fine. If they completely cut it off and they don't answer any questions, sure. But that's one thing you can't say about Lost. They answered the questions, it just wasn't what people liked, or they just didn't understand.
The problem with Lost was that they went so long without answering questions that by the time they got to where they had to answer them, they weren't able to do it in a satisfactory way.
Right. Lost technically should have been 4 seasons, 4 or 5 season tops.
Yeah.
I think they would have been able to tell a more precise story. You start dealing with all the time travel and all that way earlier, it would have been better.
Agreed.
The first season was perfect, but that's where, like, it should have been done in 3 or 4 seasons. But they were like, hey, this is making a lot of money. Let's pump it. But at the very least, that also changed American television, because that was one of the first shows that dropped from 24 episodes. It just got less and less and less. And the last season was only like 13.
Yeah,
and now we're used to that.
Yeah, but network television is still the same, though.
But that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think you can tell this kind of story on network television. You can't tell Watchmen on network television.
Oh, no.
You can't tell Lost on network television anymore.
No, you couldn't.
This is streaming. This is HBO. This is Amazon. This is what Mandalorian is with 8 episodes. This is what The Wheel of Time is going to be with 8 episodes. This is what The Lord of the Rings is. It's going to be very tight shows. This is what Game of Thrones was. There's a lot of stuff in Game of Thrones. As much shit as that show gets, up until the last season, pretty much unanimously, everyone loved the show and how it told the story.
And there's the thing. Game of Thrones suffered from the same problem that Lost did at the end, in that it was rushed.
Yes.
And they didn't have the time to do what needed to be done. And this one I lay at the creators. Because they themselves said, hey, we were done with this. And that's... Yeah, that was not a good... That didn't work.
If that last season was broken up into 2 seasons and they had more time to show her downfall, or to lay those seeds, I don't think it would have been such a shock to people. The crazy thing is what was funny to me is most people who read the books already assumed this was going to happen for years.
Yeah.
They just didn't like the execution of it. They didn't feel that it was deserved in the story that they were telling.
No, that's it. And that's exactly the way I've always put it. It's like, yes, obviously this is how this was going to go, but, and well, they said in the very beginning, she did this and that. It's like, yeah, that's fine. But the problem is you have to look at the journey she had been on the last season in particular before that. And I think the
books will do a better job.
Oh, yeah. But it's just, that was the problem. The destination isn't my issue, it's the journey. And the fact that it went way too short, especially for a show that prided itself, those first 3 seasons, on a scale of time that felt appropriate. And then suddenly, like, everything just happened all at once. Yeah. And it was it didn't work. But
I think a lot of people throw the baby out with the bathwater. I didn't. I still love Game of Thrones. I'm excited for whatever they do next with the series. I know they're doing one of the prequels.
Yeah.
That world is still super interesting to me, even though what happened at the end, I'm still that show still holds a special place in my heart, that just like Lost does.
Oh yeah.
And just like Watchmen does now. But Watchmen, to me had it stuck the landing. It wasn't rushed in the last 2 episodes.
No, because there was a very clearly defined roadmap of this is where it starts, this is where it ends. How do we get there?
Yes, and I hope if anything is taken away by the end of that season of Game of Thrones, it's HBO going, okay, we need to make sure that when we start this series, we have an ending in place for this show, or an idea of where we're going, so it's not going to be rushed again.
Right.
And moving forward, that's why I saw this stuff about the Name of the Wind. But clearly, like you said, that's a prequel. It doesn't matter where the Name of the Wind book series is ending, because what they're doing TV show wise is going to be a prequel. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
But at least with, like, for example, the Wheel of Time, there's a beginning, middle, and end, and they can even, I do hope that they even remix a little bit of it. They change some of the story of the characters to keep it fresh for the people who read the books, but at the same time making sure that it is something that stays true to the characters, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know what I'm saying is making any sense, but I hope that even if they do make any changes, it stays true to the characters and the decisions they would make.
Agreed.
Yeah. But at least there will be, hey, here's the Bible for all that books, basically. Here's it all laid out, beginning, middle, and end, and how are you going to tell your story in how many seasons. And I think that's awesome. But yeah, man, I couldn't be more happy about Watchmen. I'm so glad that came out. I'm excited to see whatever comes next. It's a shame Alan Moore will never see it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's his prerogative.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah,
but
it would be funny, but if we do hear anything out of him, that he caught it somehow, I'd have to imagine he has to be curious.
I doubt
if it's
really.
bad or not. You don't think so?
Nah, because I think he has always just kind of seemed like the person who has genuine apathy for adaptations of his work. He looked at signing away those rights as just a horrible mistake, and so the hell with it. Like, I genuinely believe he just does not care at all.
Yeah.
So, and that's he has that right. Like, that's totally up to him. But I would love for him to at least attempt it. Give it a shot and see what you think. But we never will know, because I can pretty well guarantee he's never gonna watch it.
Yeah.
But
But I guess what I would say is, to everyone but Alan Moore, if you were on the fence about Watchmen, if you just heard the whole, I spoiled everything, so I hope you have seen it, but it pays so much respect to the franchise and what came before that. I would love if people took this as an example of how to do something right. If you think about the things that they did in it, on paper, it could totally, the word's not offend, but it could be risk for it to be like, hey, this is what we're going to do with these characters.
Oh, it's a huge risk.
Huge risks. To people going, well, you can't do that to Dr. Manhattan. Like, you're going to make Dr. Manhattan a man of color now? Like, just throwing that on paper, I could see where people would be like, that would blow their minds.
Yeah.
But the way they told the story, it makes perfect sense, and it's beautiful the way they do it. The writing is just the best I've ever seen. And it's all, like you said, it's all in the execution.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. You don't do something. He never did anything in this to shock for shock, just for shock's sake.
No, the logic was sound.
Yes, like if we did acquire Vietnam, acquire is a funny word, I shouldn't say it as like, but if Vietnam suddenly became a new state, of course this kind of story would happen. And of course in 2019, in America, this kind of story would happen. And these would be the talking points. And it's always been for a very long time. And it's such a beautiful story, and it's just so well written. I hope other creators and other, the companies see this and they're like, that's a blueprint of how you respect what came before, but at the same time doing something completely new.
Yeah.
Changing it up. And before all this came out, he was talking about how it's Watchmen, but it's like a remix. And it totally makes sense. It's exactly what it is. It's a sequel, but at the same time, it's a remix of the original.
Yeah.
With current events and current things going on, just how the one in the 80s were as well. So anyway, I don't know if I have anything else to say about it. I loved it. I thought it was great. I can't wait to see what they move forward with Watchmen. Hell, even if they don't move forward, these actors are completely on my radar now. And I can't wait to see what Damon Lindelof does next.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go watch Leftovers because everyone says that is just as good, and it's 3 seasons long, and it was, it's Damon Lindelof doing what he does with the mystery box, just such in a here's 3 seasons, a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, but I've always, I hear about Leftovers that it's very like The Wire, in that you have to see it all to get into it.
Right, but that's the thing, is I started watching Leftovers a while ago, and I thought the first few episodes were boring.
Yeah, see, and by that point, it may be no, if you do the whole thing, it's I don't want to feel like I have to get through something so that I can enjoy it by the end. I want to enjoy it while I'm watching.
I guess I'm just in that mood of that, this was so well done that I know if there's a satisfying ending, I think I'm in. I think I'm going to watch the 3 seasons, because it's not long enough where it's 7 seasons. I got to sit down for 7 seasons. It's 10 episode seasons?
Something like that. Yeah.
I could do that. Especially right now. I'm going to be in full Star Wars mode this week, but after that, well, we got The Witcher, but I'm going to have time, I guess, to watch it, is all I'm saying. And I'm excited for it. I need something now, because I feel like after Watchmen, there's nothing else on television that is holding my attention except for Mandalorian, but Mandalorian's something very different. That's more of it's a different feeling. It's not as, I don't know. I don't want to say creative, but it's not as stimulating for that kind of mystery.
Right. With Watchmen. That's fair.
Yeah. So I need something like that. And there's, his Dark Materials, I guess, but that's ending too. So I don't know. I hope Witcher is week to week. But anyway, anything else?
I think that about covers it. I mean, next week is going to be, just full on Star Wars.
Yeah,
so
we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it'll be Mandalorian, Rise of Skywalker. It's going to be it's going to be all day.
We might do a whole spoiler episode. Our main episode might be a little bit shorter, but we'll just do a whole big spoiler for Star Wars. Because I imagine we'll want to knock that out.
Yeah.
And you're watching Star Wars now all the way through all of them. So I'm curious what you'll pick up on from rewatching it.
Yeah, I want to see, to have everything fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
And then go into Rise of Skywalker and see, what I pick up on.
Yeah.
That maybe I might have missed. Something that it's oh, I see that. And to think, oh, I wonder, would I have noticed that, a week ago? Not having everything just very fresh.
Yeah. You rewatched episode 1 recently, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, what is it? Was it Maz Kanata?
Yeah.
Apparently, her doll is in Anakin's room.
Okay, well, that I didn't notice.
There's a little wooden statue of Maz Kanata in Anakin's room, or what people think looks like Maz Kanata.
I think the latter is probably more likely.
But it's curious. I don't know. There's so many theories.
And in that case, I mean, I suppose it's possible that they would have seen this and somebody would have said, "Hey, that's a neat design."
True. Oh yeah, no, I totally think that it's just a coincidence in that they saw that design and that they used it and whatever. Yeah. But I also love the fan theories as well, and I love the fan theories of how in the world could think about it. How did Maz get his lightsaber?
That's
what and she is hundreds of years old.
She's over 1,000 years old.
Yeah, so her so there's all, who knows? It's a Palpatine, who knows? It's just one of those things that they threw in there. No one cared about, because of course no one knew Maz Kanata existed. We thought it was just a doll.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, but they've done crazier things. They put the statues of the Sith in the Emperor's office in the throne room.
Yeah, that's
or
fair.
not his throne room, but how did the Jedi not see that? That's what baffles me. I'm like, wait a second, who could the Sith Lord be? Well, we went to the senator's office and he had 4 giant statues of Sith things. So anyway, I don't know. Man, I can't wait to let's deep dive into that. So yeah, next week I think that'd be best if we just do like a big Star Wars episode.
Yeah, it'll just be a big like here's all of the everything. Like this is just what this is gonna be.
Yeah, so try and see it this weekend. But that's the good thing about podcasts is you can listen to it whenever you want.
Yeah.
We'll put a big spoiler headline above it. But if you're like us, you got your tickets. This is it's the end of a saga. It really feels like the end, even though we've had the end of the saga twice now already.
Yeah,
I think this is officially like Disney going, hey. Oh, and that's the other thing. Kathleen talked about was that how like. Trilogies aren't the way people make movies anymore. She goes, it's very limiting when you say, hey, we have this 3-movie arc. Instead of going, hey, we have this whole universe.
Yeah.
We can tell multiple stories in it, kind of like how you do with the Marvel stuff. Where her idea is that, like, or what she was saying is that this is their way of, they knew they had to tell the end of the Skywalker story.
Yeah.
And this is their way of doing it so that moving forward, they can tell stories with characters that don't have, 40 years of history that they have to latch onto, and that they're kind of in a bubble that you can't get out of. And a new Star Wars story with new characters that they can do anything they want with, man, you're off to the races with that. And so it got it's in what did I say? It was in Los Angeles or
Los Angeles. I think you said Los Angeles Times.
Yeah, Los Angeles Times. Go read that interview. It's fantastic, and it got me really hopeful for the future because everything she's saying in it is it's smart and it's the right decision. Even if people are going to give her crap about Solo or the decisions with The Last Jedi, I like everything she's saying. Even if she doesn't continue on with Lucasfilm, if she hands it off to someone else, I think they made good decisions. And I think moving forward, they made a really good decision by giving a little bit of time. And moving forward, man, anything can happen. They're still kind of confined by like, here are the planets, here are the races, and the Force. We still have an idea. But hey, man, we're in episode 9. We're still learning new things about it.
Yeah.
Force projection, we didn't even know was a thing. Or that we saw on screen until the last one. So like, who knows what they're gonna? I think apparently we're gonna see some new stuff in this one too, which would be cool. So I'm excited. We'll see you guys all next week. Hopefully you're staying warm. We'll see you. Go to We Geek Podcast. You can email us at wegeekpodcast@gmail.com. We're on all your podcast services: Android, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Twitter, at We Geek Podcast. Send us a tweet and let us know what you thought of it after you saw it. I'm going Thursday. I'm sure you'll see it by Sunday. Don't tweet us as spoilers. And yeah, we'll talk about it next week. We'll see you then. Captain.